This episode of Bloke in a Bar is brought to you by Squarespace. And let me tell you a little story about Squarespace. So when I started, obviously you guys know, I was doing my electrical apprenticeship. I was working in an above ground mine in Marulan. And as you guys know, I wanted to start my own podcast. Anyway, eventually I built up the courage to start my own podcast. But what did I need? I needed a website. And guess what I use? Squarespace. That is right. Squarespace is actually who I used to make my first ever website. It's called the Locker Room Network, and it's how this all started. That is where you could go and watch the clips. That is where you could go and listen to the audio. And so this is a full circle moment for me. I'm so stoked to have Squarespace as a part of the show because it truly was what started everything. And now here we are, which I'm so grateful for. That's all thanks to you guys. And so listen, if you're a plumber, if you're a sparky, if you're a chippy, whatever you are, use Squarespace to create your business page. It is super, super easy. And matter of fact, it was easy. I could do it. Literally me of all people. I did it 10 years ago. Imagine how easy it is now. They've improved out of sight with their tools. They've now got an AI that sets it up for you. There are so many different ways to use Squarespace, and it's super, super easy. You can pay bills, you can send invoices, you can do it all on Squarespace. Set schedules, all that good stuff. It's all on Squarespace. So if you've got a small business or any business at all, or you're thinking about starting a business, use Squarespace. It's like easy as drop and drag, all that stuff. It's so easy, guys. If I can do it, trust me, you can do it. So head to squarespace.com/bloke for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use code BLOKE to save 10% off your first purchase of a website domain. That's squarespace.com.au/bloke for a free trial, and then use BLOKE for 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. A massive thank you to Squarespace. This is a full circle moment for me, guys. I just remember all those years ago, crossing my fingers thinking, man, if this works out, I'll be so grateful, and I am. Anyway, let's get into the show.
Just a bloke in a bar.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Bloke in a Bar, a very strange edition. I'm in Vegas, and I'm actually in my room right now, and the internet has been working all week long. And then finally, when I actually need to use the internet, it stops working in the room. So I'm like perched up near the door rather than on where the table is, because that's the only place where I can get reception on my phone. And on top of that, the cord, that adapter I've got to plug the mic in, that also stopped working. So I had to go down and get that, was running to the shops. It has been an absolute schmozzle. But I'm over in Vegas, obviously thanks to Kayo, thanks to No Limit, thanks to Fox, thanks to everyone that come over here. It was an incredible week, an absolutely incredible week. Obviously, this podcast is going to be a bit different. I apologize. It's going to be much, much shorter than usual. But we're going to try to get to all of the big points over the weekend. So, obviously the Warriors, the Tigers, Brayley's performance, all the big points from each game we're going to get to, but it's not going to be a podcast that's the usual length. It'll be, maybe an hour and a half or so. So I just want to apologize up front with that. I'm sorry. I had two options. I had either not do the podcast and fly home immediately, which I wanted to do because I miss my little babies, or stay here an extra day and just get a podcast out for you guys. Because if I fly home straight away, I would have been in the air when the podcast normally drops. So I just wanted to apologize for that. We're back to the normal scheduling on Wednesday. I'll be back for the captain's run, and then everything's back to normal. Obviously, Timmy didn't get the win last night. Before I get into all this, I just want to say, obviously, guys, I wouldn't consider myself an expert in boxing, but just from a casual fan's perspective, I've got some thoughts on it. But first of all, I'll introduce the boys, and then we'll have a quick chat about Timmy, and then we'll get into Face the Music, brought to you by Sportsbet. But Roo, how you going, mate?
I'm good, mate. It's filled my heart a little bit to see a Queenslander struggling this morning, looking a little bit rampant, looking a little bit uncomfortable. So there's part of me that's enjoying this, mate.
Mate, we're actually used to being uncomfortable, so it's all right. It's called the Queensland spirit. We thrive in these areas. How you going, Timmy?
I'm very well, Kempy. Look, I could sit here and go on about the Raiders, another weekend, another dub for the Mighty Green Machine down in the capital, but I actually want to hear more about your last week in Vegas because it sounds like a cracker. But, Hammy, how'd you go, mate? You'd be up and about?
Yeah, great week for me. West Tigers just about clinched themselves. In fact, I'm declaring it top 16 finish now after a really relaxing watch yesterday at Leichhardt Oval, which was fantastic.
In regards to the week, it's just been incredible. Just be able to see Manny Pacquiao. And I'll be honest, with the Manny Pacquiao situation, I thought, listen, this is a bit of a cash grab. And Barrios, although Barrios isn't necessarily the craziest boxer, I just thought, with his age, and he's still a decent boxer, world class, I just thought it was a bit of a cash grab. So I was just like stoked to be able to see Manny
and everything like that. But then for him to go in there, and I actually thought he won it. I really did. But they ended up drawing. To be able to see that, a 46-year-old move like that, it was just mind-blowing. In regards to the Timmy fight, yeah, look, I just think Fundora made so much improvement since their last fight, whereas I think, it's easy to say in hindsight, but maybe Timmy was probably at his peak heading into that first Fundora fight, whereas Fundora was actually coming off a knockout loss. And, Fundora clearly had a lot more improvement left in him as a boxer. And in the time away, both fighters, he's just gone, improved by 20, 30%. And, maybe is Timmy as good as he was a few years ago? I'm not sure. We'll say, and as I said, guys, this is from a casual boxer's perspective or a casual boxing fan's perspective. So I know I don't know much about boxing, but I was a little bit surprised, and I'm sure there's people that know more about boxing that will be able to explain to me, why this was the case. But I was a little bit surprised at the fact that Timmy would seem to be circling into Fundora's power hand quite a lot throughout the whole fight, rather than stepping outside the jab and having his right go straight down the lane. He was sitting in Fundora's lane where his, straight would go down. And I just thought that Fundora not only, moved Timmy into his power hand, but he also won the foot battle. And I thought in the first fight, Timmy was much better at stepping outside of Fundora's jab leg per se, and being able to throw that straight right down the barrel. Whereas this fight, it just didn't seem that. And look, maybe there's reasons for it. I just think Fundora he was outstanding. He just came with so much more aggression this time. And look, there's been some conjecture around Timmy quitting on his stool, in the corner. That actually didn't happen. So what happened is that his corner was asking him questions. And I think one of the corner was asking a question in Russians, and he wasn't answering. And so his corner called it off. So Timmy didn't call it off or quit on his stool or anything like that. His corner actually called it off to the ref. You can go back and watch the footage and everything like that. And after that last at 7th round, I just think that Timmy looked at it, and I think he was quite surprised at the fact that he hit Fundora with everything he had multiple times, and Fundora didn't look phased. Like, he just walked straight through it. And I think that after that 7th round, Timmy just absolutely, left everything out there. And then towards right at the end, Fundora was coming back and landed some huge, huge shots. And I think Timmy was still stunned from it all. And that's what his corner saw, is the fact that he looked quite concussed. Took a lot of hit punches. I think it's smart from his corner to call it. I know people like to say, go out in your shield and all that kind of stuff. Look, Timmy doesn't need to prove his toughness to anyone. He's already proven his toughness with many fights before this. He's gotten up off the canvas multiple times. He's got a wife now. I'm sure he wants to have kids. I think you'd be very surprised if you found actual boxers or people that have actually been in the ring or respect boxers that would be, calling into question Timmy's toughness. I just think that's just keyboard warrior stuff. I really do. And look, I get you. He said he was going to die in the ring and the lead up and all that kind of stuff. Guys, come on. Have you been watching boxing for a week? Like, this is called pumping up a fight. This happens in every single fight. And so, yeah, just wanted to clear that up. He didn't quit in his stool. It was actually his corner that called it off. But outside of that, incredible night. So grateful to Kayo. Absolutely loved it. And I just, can't wait for the next event. It's just, they just put on such incredible events, and I just feel so privileged to be able to do it. But let's get into Face the Music, brought to you by our friends over at Sportsbet. A massive thank you to Sportsbet, as always. Hammy, how'd we go, mate?
Huge week in Face the Music. Moving and shaking. There's been people going up and down the ladder, so action-packed this week, probably fair to say. We'll get straight into it. Dolphins 43 defeat the Cowboys 24. A couple of people tried to be heroes and had the Cowboys 13 plus. Denon and Rue sucked in. Matty had the Dolphins head-to-head, $1.56. Timmy and I had them to cover the 4.5. So Timmy and I off to a flyer there. Moving on to Friday, the Sharkies 31 defeat the Chooks 18. Only Matty gave the Sharkies a chance. He took them head-to-head for $1.64. Guru's radar in particularly bad form. He had the Chooks 13 plus. Just missed it by the 26 points there, Guru.
What did I have there, Hammy?
You had the Chooks 1-12.
Devastating.
Yep.
Idiot.
Yeah, your words, not mine. The next game, Panthers 30 defeat Souths 10. Denon embarrassingly had the Panthers head-to-head for a whopping $1.22. Timmy had them to cover the line, 12.5. I had them 13 plus. Similar story for me. Rue's poor radar continues. Bunnies 1-12, sucked in Rue. Moving on,
Swinging for the Paddy rafters. Don't worry about that.
Owen Paddy. Raiders 40 defeat the Eels 16. We all had the Raiders here. Denon had the Raiders head-to-head for a whopping $1.27. Matty and I had him covering the 11.5. Timmy had him 13 plus. Guru, any danger, mate? You took him 1 to 12, which was wrong.
Sucked in Roo.
Yeah, sucked in Roo, exactly. Sing along if you know the words. Then we move on to the Dogs versus the Dragons. Dogs 20, sneak home against the Dragons 18. Only Matty walked away with points here. He took the Dogs head-to-head, which got him $1.34. Roo had the Dragons 1 to 12, sucked in Roo. Storm 16, defeated by Manly 18.
Wait a sec. Did I have the Dragons?
Yep.
Sorry. Did I have the? What did I have?
Dragons
Oh
head-to-head.
wow. Jeez. Okay.
What do I have, Hammy?
Jeez.
Yeah, the Dogs minus 8.5.
Bugger.
Yeah, not very on brand for you, Denon. Usually you kind of go for the $1.20 favourites, but for some reason you didn't there. Anyway,
Yeah. Look.
yeah, it is what it is, eh? Storm 16
It is what it
defeated
is.
by Manly 18. Look, a lot of us took the Storm here. Finally, Roo's on the board. Manly,
back.
Manly 1 to 12 for $4.20. Matty had the same. Sucked in particularly on this one to Denon, who had the Storm head-to-head for $1.35. So suffering your jocks, Denon.
Yeah. Listen, I've been in form for so long now. Like it's understandable that sometimes you can't win them all.
Yeah, sounds like you're resting on your laurels a little bit there, mate. But we'll move on to Sundays. Tigers 21 defeat the Titans 20. Never in doubt. Nice, easy, clinical watch. Particularly at the end, setting up for that field goal there, which we'll talk about later. Unfortunately, only one of us got points here. It was Timmy, who had the Tigers 1 to 12 for $2.85. I had him to cover the 5.5, which would have happened if that pass was 10 metres forward had been called at the start of the game, but unfortunately it wasn't. Last game, what a game this was. I mean, honestly, rugby league, just when you think you've seen it all. Knights 15, defeated by Warriors 20. Denon and Matty took the Warriors head-to-head for $1.45. Timmy had them 1 to 12 for $2.75. And that's where we finish up for round 20. So moving and shaking this week. Matty had a huge week, $12.09 he went home with. Timmy, $9.41, your best result in a long time. I had $5.63. Guru with just the one correct tip, $4.20 for him. And Denon, this sort of cowardly stuff coming back to bite him, $3.94, bringing up the rear. So we have a bit of movement. We have a new leader. Matty the Water Boy is out on front now, $170.82.
Matty.
Yep, well played. Denon, $168.04. In third position, Timmy, $125.57. Roo, $124.57, and myself, $120.74. So, the pack's tightened up a little bit. Timmy shot up the leaderboard a bit, and Matty's our new leader.
And sucked in Roo.
Correct. So that's us for Face the Music round 20, brought to you by Sportsbet.
Oh wow! I tell you what, and just quickly, Hammy, how are we going with the Try July at the moment?
Try July flying, Kempy. Nice pick up there. Another $100,000 in the kitty over the weekend. So we're up over $325,000 now for the month of July. The big one over the weekend, Kempy, I'm sure you would have seen the action at the Coldplay concert with the CEO getting sprung with his chief people officer. The Cowboys girls actually recreated that try celebration, which was outstanding. For having their finger on the pulse there, we decided to make that a 10K donation. So well done to the North Queensland girls. That was outstanding. But one more week to go. Hopefully we can get up over that $400,000 raised.
Wow, the girls, aren't they? They're just so good at it. I got to say, they really do blow us out of the water when it comes to creativity. Also, just keeping up with the pop culture. Like they've done it multiple years in a row where it's been something that's happened on the weekend or so, and they absolutely nailed it. So great stuff to hear. Great stuff to hear. All right, it's time for the code story of the week. As always, go to codesports.com.au/bloke. Use code bloke and get your discount for the year. Mobsy, how you going, mate? What's the story this week?
Hey boys, big one. Obviously, seeing at the weekend Leka Halasima score that match winner for the Warriors got me thinking a little bit, but also the news coming through on Monday that the Warriors have announced a partnership with Logan in Queensland, so Heartland, New Zealand area there. That they're going to be creating a new elite training academy for boys and girls there. So if you're looking and seeing a guy like Halasima burst onto the scene and thinking, oh, well, how are they going to go? Well, they're about to get even bigger and better because I know, Denon, you've grown up not far from there, but big New Zealand and Pacific Island heritage area there. A lot of times it surprised me a little bit that maybe they didn't do this before, but this agreement with Logan is they're going to be offering them up fields and office space, and they're going to try and tap into that local community and build another stream, another pathway. And for mine, it's got a number of levels to this, right? Because first of all, puts massive pressure already on the Gold Coast, who are probably limited in their area at the moment because of what the Broncos and the Dolphins are doing and the fights among schoolboy talent through there. And pardon me, when you have Papua New Guinea and the Bears coming through in the next couple of years, this fight for young talent is just going to get hotter and hotter, and it's going to be harder to try and get these young kids into your system. So good move here from the Warriors, and I think whatever resources they put into this is going to be richly rewarded. But the backstory to all this, which I find interesting, is you have a look when the Warriors were going really well back in 2010, 2011. They made grand finals there. They were the team in the NYC era that won 3 titles, 10, 11, 14, whatever it was, and they just had this great production of kids coming through. Now, COVID obviously impacted that probably more than Australia at the time, because New Zealand locked down way heavier, and so there have been that little lost generation of that year of talent that didn't quite come through the way they wanted to. But the Warriors have entered the Harold Matts competition, won it back-to-back seasons, and you know, we talk about, I said before, Halasima bursting on the scene. He didn't burst on the scene this season. 2 years ago, he burst on the scene at Harold Matts. He looked amazing. And this kid's 19 years old. He's played 31 reserve grade games already and 20 first grade games. So he's played 50 games against full-grown men, developing his talents. And, you know, it's this production line that they're starting to show now at the Warriors. And you have a look, dig a little deeper. This Warriors reserve grade side have won 13 games straight now under David Tangata-Toa, the New South Wales Cup coach. They haven't lost since early April. That's amazing. And you look at the guys, they've actually lost a fair few with the injuries to Luke Metcalf and Mitchie Barnett. So Tane Tuapiki, Tanner Stowers-Smith, Jacob Laban, and then you've had Tamari Martin and Tanner Boyd come up. You've seen what Sam Healy's done. They got him over from Australia, and he's been playing really well and stepped up in the absence of Wade Egan. And the role that the Warriors set up for a guy like Tangata-Toa was New South Wales Cup / transition coach, and his job is to bring guys into first grade. Those guys between 20 and 30 in that top 30 squad, he's pushing up into first grade. And the last couple of years, you've seen what he's done with Ali Leatawa, Dimitri Vaimunga, guys like that. And you know, Tangata-Toa's resume, he started at the Panthers, and he was, you know, he had his fingerprints over guys like Liam Martin coming through in that 20s, and then he went up to the Cowboys and helped set up their pathways up there, and guys like Tommy Gilbert, who credit Tangata-Toa with helping bring them along a lot as well. And great pickup for the Warriors to get this guy over there. And when you look at what's coming in the next couple of years and the way the Warriors are setting themselves up, I think that this is just going to be the start of a really fruitful period, because that's 5-7 players from their pathways that they've blooded in the first grade in the last couple of years. And you've seen, obviously, they spent a bit of money on Murata Nuakore a couple of years ago, and they spent money getting James Fisher-Harris in place of Adam Fanua-Blake, and you're thinking, all right, what are they going to do with this salary cap? Because they haven't really spent massively on that spine, but it's this really good salary cap management through investing in your pathways that's going to have the Warriors firing at the moment. So I think we're going to see a lot more match-winning moments from guys like Halasima and that over the next couple of years. So and this relationship with Logan City now into that southeast Queensland corner, because rugby league has no boundaries anymore, does it, boys? You can just go anywhere and pick up anyone from anywhere, and it's going to be a really hot topic, I think, going forward.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I think, interestingly, so I actually spent a lot of time in Logan. One of my first girlfriends, my first loves, was from there. It's going to make me cry. No, all jokes aside. No, yeah. So, anyways, there's actually, you're right. There's actually a very big Tongan and Samoan population there. Bit of a Central American population there too, and also Asian. Anyway, so having been there quite a lot coming into first grade, the amount of talent that is there is like, I mean, Cameron Smith came out of Logan. It's a hotbed for talent. Like, genuinely, some of the best talent in the country comes out of Logan. And so for them to land that is, yes, it puts pressure on the Titans. And I don't mean this disrespectfully to the Titans, but and maybe it's my bias coming out, but I think it puts more pressure on the Broncos, because the Broncos have relied heavily on that area for so long now, just to be able to bring out all of these really good, talented youngsters. I'd be interested to see. So, does that include South Logan, the Queensland Cup side, as well?
No, this is just purely a relationship with the local council there, where they've negotiated to have field space and office space, and then they'll dig in through there. So they will set up their own systems there.
Right, so not to do with the footy club as such itself.
Interesting. That's
yeah. So then they will go out and they'll put their own resources in there to picking up kids and identifying talent and bringing them through, you know.
It's so interesting because the Canberra Raiders had this massive link with South Logan for years and years and years, and before they were linked with the Mounties and they had their own New South Wales Cup side, a lot of their players, they'd send up and reserve grade players to South Logan and play there, and that ended a few years ago, but guys like Josh Papali'i, Anthony Milford, Edric Lee all came through that link. So, I mean, I'm interested to hear from Kempy what he thinks the difference will be between not being with the club as such, but with the Logan region.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it's going to be interesting, that push and pull between the hearts and mind of the young fellas. You know, you give a 14-year-old or a 13-year-old some Warriors kit. You know, back in the day, maybe he would have got some Broncos kit. And so I guess that's going to be the real push and pull. I just got to say, the Warriors right now, you know, you look at what they did a few years ago where they got all their juniors sorted. Now they're landing in Logan where there is just so much talent. Mate, it's just brilliant. It's just absolutely brilliant what they're doing. I'd love to get your thoughts, Roo.
Yeah, I love what they're doing at the moment. I think as well, just from like keeping an eye on their New South Wales Cup over the last few weeks. Like when Jet Cleary went over there, I sort of thought, oh, you know, Jet's a while away from first grade. Mate, he's playing some good footy over there. Like, he's looking really good. The 5'8", Luke Hanson's playing great footy. They've got a middle coming off the bench, Toby Crosby, who I think will be ready for first grade next year. Like, they're just setting themselves up in amazing ways. And once again, you know, you can't credit it all to him, obviously, but it's funny where Phil Gould leaves his footprint. Just popped over there for 2 years, and all of a sudden, you know, the gears start to turn there, and now you're seeing the results of it.
You see the Jet Cleary stuff's really interesting, Roo. It's only in the last couple of weeks he's actually had the 7 on his back. He's usually had a number post 17 on there, because the Warriors didn't want to put out any announcement that he's playing, because they know that with the Cleary surname, any time that he's named there will come thoughts around it. So they've done a really good job in protecting him. And to his credit, I had a chat with him a few weeks ago up there at Brookie after their reserve grade game up there in the sheds, and he was so calm and just took everything on his shoulders as he was going through, understood his role, and obviously he's going to have a bit more to do now with Tanner Boyd stepping up into first grade, but taking it all in his stride. But the way the Warriors, their individual man management of people, and seeing them not as commodities, seeing them as people, and identifying what they need, and that's something that it's really ingrained in this club. And you talk to people there who have come from other clubs, and they haven't seen that around a lot. And that this is going to be that little secret sauce. And you obviously know that Ivan has to trust someone implicitly to send his son away, because he knew he wanted to get him away from Penrith and away from the shadow of Nathan to build himself, and to trust the likes of Andrew Webster and Dave Tangatoa to bring this young kid through. It's going to be really interesting to see the next couple of years with him.
Oh, man, really great insight, man. It's so really, really interesting to see all the right moves that the Warriors are making at the moment. So make sure, go to codesports.com.au/bloke. Use your code for a discount. And before you go, Mobsy, what other stories you got this week that are big?
Well, we're sticking with this. It's that time of year, right, where you've just had the National Schoolboy Championships up there in Coffs. So Brent Reed's been ranking the kids up there on their performance. So he did that to start the tournament, and he's doing his re-rankings now. But the other things we're having a look at is the young guns that every club are going to build their side around for the next few years. So you look at players at Cronulla like the likes of young halfback Riley Pollard, who's coming through, or Corey Ackers at the Dragons, because forwards have been such an issue for St George Illawarra for a few years, right, Roo? And they seem like they've finally got a little production line starting to filter through on forwards.
Yeah, the Dragons have got a fantastic forward pack coming through over there over the next few years. So, you've already seen guys like Couchman, Dylan Egan, this Halangahu. I assume he'll debut at some point towards the back end of this year. He's going to blow it away as well. So, I know it's been tough for Dragons fans, but they're in a similar spot to what I looked at the Raiders a couple of years ago. You could see this young crop coming through, and they lost Jack DeBellin the other day, which I know upset Dragons fans, but geez, I'd rather keep some of these kids for 8 years than keep DeBellin for another 2, personally.
Yeah. So we've had a look into every club and just identified a couple of those talents to keep your eyes on, because everybody wants to see the next big thing and what your club's doing to build for this future, because it's going to become so important with expansion on the horizon.
Well, mate, the might of the ACT, I think they made the final, didn't they, Mobsy? The schoolboy championship. Nationals, the national carnival?
Yeah,
ACT. Rare for the ACT folk.
They played some good footy. They've got. It's interesting because obviously such a strong rugby presence down there in Canberra, but I think we're seeing more and more of the mix of good young footy players attending GPS schools and playing both league and union. And when it comes to the crunch, unfortunately, union can't keep up with league when the opportunities that they can offer. So another good pathway there for the Raiders.
Yep.
Mate, thanks so much, Mobsy. Appreciate it, mate. Awesome story.
Get home safe, mate.
I'll do my best.
All right, our Menulog Hungriest player of the week, Dylan Edwards. A huge performance for the Penrith Panthers on Friday night. Kempy, what were your thoughts on his games, mate?
Mate, my thoughts on his game was he looks fresh. And it's weird because obviously he played Origin, but the scariest thing about this Panthers outfit, and I think Edwards typifies this, and obviously Cleary as well, but Edwards typifies this, is if they ever needed motivation, all of their leaders, Yo, Cleary, Edwards, Toto, they are in for a big back end of the season because you're clearly devastated by the loss during Origin, and I think Edwards just proved that. I thought he looked as good as he's ever looked. I thought that this season he's probably had his quietest year in probably 2 years or so, but on the weekend, that was Edwards back to nearly his best. I thought he was absolutely outstanding.
What do you think, Timmy?
He's just effort on effort on effort, isn't he? What he lacks in the speed of Pappenhausen or the ball playing of Scott Drinkwater, he makes up for, and we know this is what he's typified his career on. He's just these effort plays. Like, he scored a double and set one up in this game, in this win over the Bunnies, and he was clearly the difference between the two teams, among a few other standouts from Penrith, but it was all just support play. He wasn't creating things out of nothing as such, like the more spectacular fullbacks in the game can do, but just being on ball and in support and in the right place at the right time, the footy IQ to know where to be. It's second to none, and as I said, he came with 2 tries and a try assist purely off support play and effort areas.
He's just an absolute Iron Man too. Like I was told last week, he's not playing injured, but he's 100% playing hurt at the moment, which after Origin, everything he's put himself through over the last few years is no shock to anyone. He's just incredible. Hammy, what do you think of Edwards?
No, I thought it was fantastic. His best game in a little while, and he's always very, very consistent, but certainly hitting those straps where he was undeniably probably the best fullback for a good period there. He was outstanding on the weekend. Nice little try celebration as well. Whipped out the Ealing Haaland, which we love to see. But yeah, I thought he had an outstanding game on the weekend, and they're in this nice area at the moment, the Panthers. They can rest guys and they're freshening guys up, which we thought when they started so badly this year they weren't going to be able to do. They've got themselves back in a spot now, and I thought he was fantastic with a couple of those other big names missing on the weekend.
Dylan Edwards, our Menulog Hungriest player. You can use the code Edwards for free delivery this week. And our hungry shout-out goes to Melbourne's Kebab Connection on Menulog, where the slow-cooked lamb kebab just hits the spot. Not bad, right, Timmy?
I am going to enjoy this podcast so much with you calling the shot true. Everything about it is enjoyable, and for you to have an early kebab shout out, it's just perfect.
It's not early enough for me. Use code Edwards on Menulog to score free delivery from any local legend near you. Now our Grumpy Coffee team of the week. At fullbacks, we've got that man Dylan Edwards. On the wing, Jed Stewart. On the other wing, we've got Xavier Coates. The centres, Casey McLean and Taylor May. At 5'8", we've got Brooksy. I thought he was sensational for Manly. At halfback, the man of the moment, Lockie Galvin. Terrell May in the front row with Joe Tarpanay, Blake Brayley in jersey 9, Lemuelu and Lecker on the edges, Adam Dewey in jersey 13. The bench, the CBA that was promised, Owen Paddy. We've got Hudson Young, Jake Travojevic and Joe Tarpanay there. Any thoughts on team of the week there, Kempy?
Mate, I got so many thoughts. There's some performances on the weekend that were arguably best of the season performances. And got obviously Halasima. I mean, Brayley, where has this come from? I don't care who you are. Everyone knew Brayley had an extra gear in him. I don't think they knew he had 2 or 3 extra gears in him, but we'll get to that during the game. So I can't wait to get to the games, guys. But great team of the week. Great team of the week.
Harry Grant might be a smoky for the Ashes Tour at the moment, just quietly with Blake the way he's going. All right, let's get stuck into our Kayo Can't Miss moment. And geez, this moment, incredible stuff. Lecker, is it the best? Is it the best match winning try we have seen? It has to be right up with the best of them. Field goal, charge down. He gets the deflection, and from 45 metres out, Tim, is there a player you would want the ball to land in their hands less than him? He's just incredible.
It was just a defining moment of this young superstar's career. He's had moments this year where you've gone, all right, he's probably going to be a star, and he's got this good footy in him. He's an explosive ball runner, like Halasima. But that was just name up in lights of, as you said, Roo, one of the best match-winning tries we'll ever see. He's just devastating, and the sky's the limit for, you know what? The crazy thing about it is it could have been 3 or 4 different edge-back roles for the Warriors, and they all could have done this, but Leka Halasima, he was the man of the moment. He already had an earlier moment in the game, and what did he do? Beat 2 or 3 players. He was running away from a couple of them. The speed and size of him, he's just... To quote a wise man, it could be anything.
Mate, when he got that ball, last tackle, game on the line, he didn't even look to pass. He didn't look at it. He just thought, I'll just score from here. From 45 metres out. Incredible stuff. Hammy, thoughts? I think he did it to you earlier in the year too.
Yes, I'd seen this movie before when we saw it on the weekend. It wasn't off a deflected field goal, though. It was probably the only difference. But, outstanding. He just pinned the ears back, had a couple of blokes hanging off him as he went over the line. But he's having some sort of season. Is he... eligible for Rookie of the Year?
Yes, he is. That was going to be my next conversation with all of you.
Well, Roo, I was just going to chime in as well. I know we're talking about for the big moment was the try, but I think it was Lecker that had a try save on Hunt, not far from the end of the game either. That was a try for all money, and Lecker was where he shouldn't have been. He won the game twice for them.
Yeah, incredible stuff. And I think it's just the moments that lead up to that, the missed field goal, the missed penalty goal, the Newcastle Knights, poor buggers, they were home and hose, couldn't lose that game.
How many beers does Tanner Boyd owe Leka Halasima? What's the overs unders, you reckon?
Well, wasn't it good watching the celebration after the game and you just saw Tanner just sitting there going, my God, just use my get out of jail card in that one. How good. Kempy, what were your thoughts, mate?
Mate, I tell you what, if you ever needed an example of what sport is for, it's for that 60 seconds of the public when their life is hard and it takes their mind away from it. Because I promise you, every person watching that, whatever's going on in their life, for 60 seconds, they weren't thinking about it. And the reason why I know that, and I hate to make it about myself, apologies, because my try was nowhere near as good as Halasima. But what I can say is there is still people that come up to me 20 years later nearly and say, I remember exactly where I was when you scored against the Parramatta Eels at the end there. And that's what's going to happen with Halasima. He could retire tomorrow and the entire nation of New Zealand will have a story about I was with my partner, I was with my child, I was with my wife, my husband. And that's what makes this more than just a try. It's a moment in hundreds, if not millions of people's lives that will never be forgotten. And that's what's so great about sport. It gives guys like Halasima, after he got interviewed by Freddie after it, and you could tell he was shy and, he didn't really know. He said, I'm always shy in front of cameras. And yet you've got this guy that's shy in front of cameras, but is so great, has so much greatness inside him that in a moment like that, picks up a ball, does an in and away on a fullback, and we're talking about Dan Gagai here. We're not talking about anyone. It's not like we're talking about a fullback that's bad at tackling. We're talking about a centre that usually tackles big boys as it is, gets an in and away to score a try somehow, some way, and it's a moment that people will never, ever, ever forget. And that's just why we love sport. This is exactly why we love sport.
Yeah, like our Kayo Can't Miss moment this week. Now, the Fox League exclusive games this round. The Cowboys versus the Dragons, Friday night, 6 p.m. The Warriors v the Titans, 3 p.m. on Saturday. The Panthers v West Tigers, 5:30 on Saturday. And the Rabbitohs v Sharks, that's the late game, 7:35 Saturday night. And the last one, the Raiders versus the Knights, that's 2 p.m. Sunday. We've got the NRLW season. It has officially kicked off. New teams, the Bulldogs, they're off to a fast start. 2 wins to start the year and a narrow loss to the Dragons over the weekend. We've got Australia's tour of the West Indies continues this week with a 5-match T20 International Series as they look to back up their 3-0 test sweep with more dominance in the shorter format. Tune in this week, get to watch every practice qualifying session and the Belgian Grand Prix race live on Fox Sports. Races on 11 p.m. Sunday night. KS Sports, get on board today. Tell you what, Kempy, you might be looking for a new job next week, mate. I'm flying at the moment.
Mate, I'm telling you. Mate, I tell you what, I need a holiday, Roo. I'm telling you, I need a holiday. I've been working my ass off for 6 years. Maybe Roo takes over.
You might be on an extended holiday at this rate, mate. All right, the NordVPN defence play of the week. We're going to Damien Cook for his try-saver on kick-out. Unfortunately, when teams don't win games, I think some of these moments are forgotten at times. But Timmy, Damien Cook's play a huge one.
For a veteran of the game who the Dragons having an up and down year, he's sort of been forgotten a little bit, but he's been really good for the Dragons. His durability is unreal. And to come up with this defensive play in what could have been the difference, in what could have been a huge upset win over premiership contention in the Bulldogs, it wasn't to be the way the game panned out, but he's just been awesome for them. And for a few issues that the Dragons are having this year, the fact that they've got this rotation of Damien Cook and Jacob Little, who I thought Little turned the game when he came on as well, and just the speed he was getting in around the ruck, it's one of the best hooking combinations in the competition, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, some people argue that why did they sign Damien Cook when they got Jacob Little? I think it's moments like this and the professionalism that Cook's brought to this side that I think has really turned a corner for them. And I think it'll pay dividends in the future. Hammy, your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, outstanding from Cookie. He's been a real sort of leader, obviously, for the club. That's a big reason why they got him there. And I think probably at the start of the year, there's a lot of hype around Gutho at the back and him kind of, leading the boys around. He's still done a good job, but I'd say Cookie's probably the guy leading the charge. I love the way that he fronted up in the press conference the other day and went into bat for Kyle Flanagan. And, it just goes to show the character of this bloke to, come up with big defensive plays like this as well. This is the sort of stuff that, sets the tone for those younger guys coming through. I think he's been a great signing and, a great pick for the NordVPN Defensive Player of the Week.
Huge play from the beach sprinter. Talk to me, Kempy.
Yeah, I tell you what, you can look at the Dragon seasons 2 ways. You can be like, what could have been, but you can also be like, geez, they've hung in there. And it's plays like that show you why they've been so close in so many games. And I know it's a small silver lining for Dragons fans that are hurting at the moment with everything that went over the weekend. But geez, they've been tough. And that try saver, that typifies it. That really typifies it.
That's our NordVPN defensive play of the week. NordVPN, it's high security, protects your information, stops fraud and stops your social media getting hacked. Shout out Timmy. So jump on today to protect yourself with NordVPN. To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/bloke in a bar. Our link will also give you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the podcast episode description box down below. Good things, Timmy.
Yeah. How short are we talking for this show, Ken? Because I was sick of Guru about 5 minutes ago.
You're getting very Nord defensive over there.
All right, let's get stuck into it. On Thursday night, the Dolphins 43 over the Cowboys 24. I think there was about a 15-minute period in the second half where the Cowboys gave us a little bit of a scare. I thought they were going to get up for Todd Payton for a brief period there, but the Dolphins, they just keep doing it. They've done it all season. They just hang in every single contest, regardless of injuries, whatever's going on. They just hang in every single week, Timmy.
Wolfie's doing an incredible job up there, isn't he? And I think everyone's waiting for the wheels to fall off the Dolphins, not because they don't think they're capable, but just because this injury toll that is just growing and growing and growing. You add to it from last week, 2 pretty key forwards in them in Marky Nicholson, Kulikefu Finifuiaki, who dropped out of this side. He's going, they're just getting depleted. But, mate, they find an answer every week. It's that next man up mentality of whoever has to play, who comes up from Q Cup, or whether it's players changing positions or bench players becoming big minute starters. Everyone has an answer. And the Dolphins are every chance at playing finals footy this year, but they should be. Like, they're in the best 8 teams in the competition, and dare I say it, like, if it wasn't for this injury toll that they've had throughout the year, and they obviously had the slower first few rounds and took them a while to get off on the mark, they'd be pushing for top 4. Like, they're playing that good a footy, and there's so much made of post-Wayne Bennett era at clubs and how they've struggled. They've gotten better, and whether that's Bennett setting them up in such a good place or whether that's what Wolves been able to do, it's such a credit to them, and I really do hope they play finals footy.
Hammy, thoughts, mate?
Yeah, the Dolphins are flying. They've put 50 points on the board 3 times this season. I thought we were going to see a 4th here the other day as well. Their attack is the second best, or it's the equal best attack in the comp. They've got the second best points differential as well. They were very, very good for a big portion of this game. Probably let the Cowboys back in for a little 20-minute period there, around the 55-minute mark. They obviously scored 3 tries, but I reckon they're a chance to scrape into the finals. That round 25 game against Manly is going to be key. I reckon whoever wins that probably takes the 8th spot, but there's some really good signs there for the years to come, and some key players in key positions playing some really good footy at the moment.
My question to the panel before we throw over to Kempy, Christian Wolf, as far as the Dally M Coach of the Year race is going, if they make the 8, like, context has to matter. He's replacing Wayne Bennett, the mass injuries they've had, the first time the franchise has ever made the finals potentially. How high does he have to go before he's in those conversations?
Unfortunately this year, and there's no Raiders bias in this, but I mean, when Raiders were favourite for the wooden spoon and they're on track to win the minor premiership, how do you beat that?
Yeah, a good point, but you'd have to say this guy would be in the conversation or on the podium at least with him, given the fact that he's probably, if they make the finals, he's improved the team since Wayne Bennett left. That's like a huge step. But
if the Raiders win the minor premiership, though, there's no conversation, right?
It's a great point you made, because they were obviously favoured to and Ricky has made us all very aware that they were the favourites to win the wooden spoon at the start of the season, and they're playing some great footy since. But you'd have to say Christian Wolf definitely in the conversation.
I reckon he'll be nominated and he'll get an invite to the awards night.
Has to. I just think his name hasn't been thrown up enough in that conversation, and you're right. Ricky Stewart, he should be the absolute favourite for that. But, mate, what Wolf has done up there with what he has just been incredible. What are your thoughts, Kempy?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think that I understand, Timmy, where you're coming from, and I tend to agree with you. So I just want to make that clear. I do agree with you. I'd be going Ricky Stewart. However, I don't. With the Dally M Coach, I'd love to. Is it? Let's say Dolphins beat the Raiders in a finals game or whatever. Is the Dally M Coach picked after the season, or is it picked a week before the grand final?
No,
you know what I'm
it's
saying?
all I mean, it's all picked before final start, which is one of my pet peeves of the Dally M system. But that's going to be other conversation, that if you do give it to Ricky Stewart because he wins the minor premiership, well deserved. Christian Wolf goes further in finals with less once again. Opens up another conversation.
Essentially, it's the best coach of the regular season.
Yes.
So finals doesn't really come into it. So, and that's a shame, because especially for Coach of the Year, it should be the whole thing, but the award ceremony's earlier. It's like, honestly, I know it's great having the presentation and doing it that night, but the coaching one, it's almost one that you wait to the end of the season, right?
Yeah, I tend to agree. Kempy, Dolphins, what are your thoughts?
Oh, man. I mean, I can't believe it. I just genuinely can't believe it. It sounds silly when you're hosting a podcast, but maybe that's why I've been demoted, because I'm almost a bit speechless. I am one of those people that I keep waiting for the wheels to fall off. Like, I look at some of these other teams with, less injuries that we always say, oh, well, they've got a lot of injuries, so let's excuse why they're playing so poorly. With the Dolphins, it's like, it's almost like they get better at times. And I think one thing that isn't really... Look, obviously Isaiah Katoa is talked about a lot. There's no denying that. But what I don't think is being talked about enough in regards to Wolf is, you could argue Herbie Farnworth is playing career best footy, and so is Isaiah Katoa. They both played under Wayne Bennett, and they're playing better under Wolf. Like, that's a big, big deal. That's a big deal. And I'm not trying to discredit Wayne's input into their seasons, but it's just amazing. Like, I can't believe... And when you look at... I just think that out of all the teams in the competition, they're probably the last... Not the last. Obviously, the last are probably, Penrith and Raiders or whatever to play in finals footy. But they're going to be the most under... like, when you go into a game against the Dolphins, you're not worried that they can score and win 13 plus against you. For whatever reason, they haven't got that reputation yet. And yet they're the only team that are, I think, of 13 plus, the Bulldogs, the Panthers, and the Storm. And there's an argument, as you just said, Hammy, they've got the best attack in the comp, and yet we sit here every single week and say how great the Melbourne Storm are, and they are great, they are good. But we don't ever sit here and go, if the Dolphins get their defense sorted, their attack is literally unstoppable. We never say that, and yet the numbers would suggest that is the case.
I think as well with the Dolphins, worth noting that there's only been 3 teams in the competition who have lost more than one game 13 plus. The Dolphins, the Melbourne Storm, and the Raiders. Pretty damn impressive to be hanging in every single game like that. I think the greatest credit to Wolf is, you've obviously got Herbie Farm with Isaiah that can be pointed out, but 2 guys for me, like Jake Averillo, he's played 5'8", centre, fullback this season. He's been playing great footy wherever he is. I was at the point at the start of the season where I'm going, you can't pick him anymore. He's been incredible since then, but Kurt Donahoe for me, he spent the preseason training for fullback to fill in for Hamiso during the Origin period. He's playing 80 minutes at lock week to week now. Unbelievable.
Yeah, the one for me was Averillo, and like Donahoe, awesome as well. But Averillo, I've seriously had my doubts in his ability just defensively at NRL level. We've seen even at the Bulldogs how potent he can be in attack, but whilst he still has the odd defensive issue, as you said, Roo, mate, they're playing in between 5'8", fullback, centre, wing, both sides of the field. He's doing everything that's asked of him, and he's been fantastic. And yeah, sure, he's had the odd moment in defence here and there that needs to work on, but he's been solid enough, and his attack's been sublime. Shout out to him as well, because he stole a try from Herbie Farmworth late in the game. That was great for my Supercoach side. But he's how good's Averillo been? And you sort of sit there and wonder now, like, what's Averillo's best position? Because I've always thought of him as a fullback, because he's got that speed, he's got a bit of ball playing, defensively not the best, but mate, you see what he did at 5'8" on the weekend, and he's just ticking boxes everywhere he goes.
Yeah, he just doesn't get him wrong. Anything on the Dolphins, Sam?
No, Donahue, I'm with you, Roo. Very impressed. Just a footballer who just wants to be out there. He's played fullback, he's played hooker, busted his nose, he's done all sorts of stuff this year. Good to see him getting an extended run at lock, and he's killing it. So, yeah, he's been outstanding.
On the Cowboys, I'll be honest with you, boys. I thought the chat we had last week about the Cowboys was just about perfect, and I'm not sure if anything's really changed for me in the last 7 days. Kempy, I'll get your thoughts first, mate. Has the needle moved at all for the Cowboys either way?
Yeah, my thoughts still are the same as last week in regards to, the whole idea of selecting people that represent your message rather than just saying your message. The only other thing I would say is, mate, I'm just so surprised at how poor their defensive system is. I think that they actually need to completely overhaul it. Some of the decisions that were made out on the edge there were, when we look at how good some of these defensive systems have become in the NRL, with the Cowboys, it just seems like they're all on different pages still, jamming in, turning out, falling for dummies. I just think that not only do they need to begin selecting people that are the best defenders? As I said last week, I feel like they don't do that enough. They focus a bit too much on, who just is the best player rather than going, okay, we've got a huge issue. Our issue is defense. Let's just pick the 17 best defenders in the comp. Then I also have to ask the question, does their defensive system need a whole overhaul? And that's what I saw on the weekend. They're playing for their season. They're arguably playing for their coach's job, potentially. And so it's a mixture of, are the right players being selected or recruited? And also, is that defensive system NRL standard? I'm just not sure. And
to break that down a bit more, Kempy, I could not believe the nature of some of these tries and the amount of times the Dolphins were going through the Cowboys rather than going around them. Defensive coaches will sit here every day and say, look, at the end of the day, if they're going to score tries, let it be them stripping us for numbers and being the winger in the corner. Make it as hard as possible for them. Do not let them go through us. The amount of times that the Dolphins strolled through gaps because defenders were turning their hips out. Basically, the number one rule as a defender is you stay square to your opponent, the attacker, and when the ball goes past you, you can turn your hips out. But you do not turn your hips out until that ball goes past you. The amount of times that Cowboys defenders turn their hips out and then whichever playmaker it was or line runner would just go straight through that gap because the hips were turned was incredible. It was one of the worst defensive displays I've seen for this exact reason alone. It wasn't just getting stripped on the edges, it was through them. And defensively, in Todd Payton, they would just be spitting chips at what he saw.
Thoughts, Hammy?
Yeah, there's a big issue there, obviously, with the Cowboys' defence. It has been for ages. It's almost been Control-C, Control-V, the one criticism of them each week so far this season. And the disappointing thing is that's just like an attitude thing, defence generally. If it's an issue for long enough, if people are buying in, you should be able to fix it. But for whatever reason, they haven't been able to do that. Very concerning stuff for the North Queensland Cowboys at the moment.
Yeah, it's been pretty grim the last few weeks for the North Queensland Cowboys, boys. I thought one positive to come out of the last few weeks, I think Cohen Hess is playing the best footy I've seen him play in a few years now.
Yeah, he's going well, isn't he? And he's, again, a bloke who's had a pretty injury-riddled few seasons for them and forwards dropping like flies, and he's been consistent in their side this whole season, hasn't he?
Where do we think Todd Payton's at realistically?
In strife. The only thing is, there could be a coaching absolute merry-go-round at the end of this season because there are so many coaches that sound like they're on the outer. I wonder what sort of conversations will be being had between closed doors, between clubs, and whether they're, it sounds like there might be movement at the Knights, there might be movement at the Titans. Do you just sit there and go, all right, who's available? Who can we get next year? Who's going to be better than Todd Payton? But, mate, I think he'd be nervous.
I think with Josh Hannay sitting around waiting for a job, I think that makes it tougher. Over the next 4 weeks, the Cows will play the Dragons, the Sharkies, the Eels, the Knights. I mean, with the squad they've got, they play the Tigers after that, with all due respect. I mean, they should be winning at least 2 or 3 of those games. If they don't, could turn pretty quickly. What are your thoughts, Kempy, about Todd Payton and where he's at?
Yeah, I think the Hannay situation is probably the most alarming for him specifically. And the reason I say that is that if Hannay wasn't on the market, I would say, you know what, who else is there that, is really yelling out to be selected as the next coach? Payton is relatively new. He's made finals every year except for 2. The problem that the Cowboys face is if they don't get Hannay now, if that is who they want, then someone else could. And so they face an uphill battle of, we've got an ex-player that used to play at the club. He's got a bunch of success for the Queensland Maroons as well. We need to make a call. We don't have the luxury of time and just go, you know what, let's see how things go. Because at the moment, it's the Knights, it's the Titans that are basically also potentially becoming on the market for Hannay. And so that's the decision they've got to make. Do they risk, sacking Payton and then still not get Hannay? What if that happened? Then all of a sudden, so there are so many things that I think that Hannay is in almost a box seat right now because whoever gives him the best deal quickly is probably going to get him, I'd assume, unless he's going to be super patient. But you just never know. For example, the Knights, yes, they're a club that's struggling to a degree, but at the same time, they're not a basket case per se. They've made the finals for the last few years. Kalen Ponga is committed till at least 2027. And so that's going to put a lot of pressure on their decision at the Cowboys. They don't have the luxury of time to wait. They've got to make a big call, and they've got to make it pretty soon, in my opinion.
Timmy, Hammy, anything else on that game before we move on?
No, all good, mate.
All good.
All right, Friday night footy, the 6 p.m. game. The Sharkies 31 points to 18 over the Sydney Roosters. The Sharkies back in the winner's circle over the last few weeks and starting to play some really good footy, Timmy.
Yeah, they're a hard one to get a read on. They're doing what we thought we were going to do all season the last couple of weeks. They've had 2 really good bounce-back results, mate, and in the context of the season, fighting for a top 8 spot against a side like the Roosters, that is a huge swing. Getting winning this game will go a long way to determining that sort of 7th and 8th spot come finals time. And I mean, we'll get to him shortly, but it's been off the back of Blake Brayley. And my question is, why is it taking this long to lean into his running game? And I know it's easy to say in hindsight, but mate, we've said it for years. This bloke has a lethal running game, and we sit here and ask questions of Hines and Trindle and Kennedy, and it's like the X factor was there all along in Blake Brayley.
Yeah, and I think in hindsight it's easy to ask. We've been talking about it for years. I've got to be honest, I didn't think he was going to be this good, though. I think what he's doing at the moment is unbelievable. We've had, purple patches of hookers previously, where Josh Hodgson went on that incredible run with the Raiders and whatnot. And it's been a shorter time for him. But what Blake Brayley's doing at the moment, just every week, he is lights out at the moment.
And it takes so much pressure off Nico and Trindle, who seemingly come under scrutiny, whether they win or lose, whether they have 4 try assists or no try assists. And doesn't it just feel like, I don't know how they feel as halves, but just a weight has been lifted off their shoulder to be the key creators and do everything for them. It's like, no, we've got another bloke he's the dominant one through the middle.
Thoughts, Hammy?
Yeah, they've been outstanding the last couple of weeks, the Sharkies. Nico Hines, for me, still playing like a number 6, but we're in the number 7. Look, I don't know if we're going to be able to solve that on this show. We've been banging on about it for a long time. But, I thought he's had a couple of really good weeks back-to-back, Nico now. Brayley, I mean, the last probably 6 weeks to 8 weeks that he's had, could probably stake a claim for being the most informed player in the comp at the moment. But impressive win. They needed that huge top 8 ramifications, that one as well. That probably sees them scrape in because they've only got one game against the side inside the top 8 on their run home now after that. So big win for them.
In an era nowadays where you've got, your Payne Haas's, your Leckers, these forwards just doing unbelievable things. Boys, I loved watching Cam McInnes the other night. He went for 80 minutes straight. He made 50 tackles, 142 metres, which, as I said, by some of the standards that other guys set, it doesn't really grab your attention, but they were some of the toughest 142 metres I've seen. I could not believe his engine just goes and goes and goes.
And look, I haven't seen any necessarily word on this, but I don't know if Adam Fanua-Blake's maybe playing a little injured as well. He's had minutes drop off a little bit of late, because his 200th game, so shout out to AFB for that one. Got through 52 minutes, but we know he can play a lot bigger time. And AFB hasn't probably looked at his best the last couple of months, so whether or not he's carrying something, but whether he is or isn't, mate, Ken McInnes is picking up the load, isn't he?
And isn't that, once again, just credit to Blake Brayley that, if I would have said to you at the start of the season, Blake Brayley's playing great footy, we're going, okay, AFB's kicking the door in. He's not at his absolute best at the moment, and Blake Brayley's still doing unbelievable things.
If AFB gets back to what we know he can do, and that's not to say AFB's been bad, he just looks a little hindered to me, so whether or not there's anything in that, I'm not sure, but if AFB gets back to his best and those just damaging runs through the middle, with the current form Blake Brayley is in, look out.
What did you take away from this game, Kempy?
Yeah, it's funny. It's almost like they both flipped roles for me. So I assumed the Roosters were about to bounce back and go on this great run, and the Sharkies were going to struggle, and it's the complete opposite. And I think I look at the Sharkies, and I agree with you, boys. I just think that anyone that thought that Brayley was going to be this good, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I think most people knew he had a good running game and he could be a little bit better, but this much better to where he is essentially picking his club off the canvas mid-year and just wrangling them back into form. That's how good Brayley's been. And I think you boys are totally right. I think that's taken massive pressure off Hines. I think it's kind of almost proven that this is when Hines plays his best footy, when he doesn't need to have all the weight of the world on his shoulders. He has someone else taking a bit of that weight, and then he just steps forward and does his thing. And it's almost like, we've been saying this for quite a while now in regards to the roles and what suits certain people. The whole time we were talking about Brayley and Hines, and the whole time we're sitting in Hines, Trindle, and it was actually Brayley that was the man that was going to take pressure off both of them. And I just think that it's a unique point of difference to have at a club. The only other club that I can look at and go has very similar is probably the Melbourne Storm with Harry Grant in regards to the dominance around the ruck. Outside of that, Appy Coruscant to a degree. But Blake Brayley, when you mix in his incredible defence with that kind of attack, the Sharkies all of a sudden, even some of their forwards are playing some of the best footy they've played in a very long time. Even last week we spoke about how good Toby Rudolph was. They just look so much better with Brayley just relieving pressure constantly through the middle.
Guru, do you think it's time that Fitzy bites the bullet and puts the 7 on Brayley's back?
Well, might not be too far away. He's doing great things at the moment.
Just to shore up the roles a little bit, let him know who's in control.
Can I just say this too? Now, I thought the Sharkies, they were the better side by far and away for me in this game. But there was a big moment. Billy Burns scored a try that, for me, he's on the ground. He's got a Roosters hand on him. I was a bit surprised that was given a try. What were your thoughts, Timmy?
The double movement, the ruling, it sort of perplexes me a bit.
Yeah.
Every time an example comes up, and there were heaps, and there was a few that came up on Sunday, particularly during the Warriors and Knights game. And I know what the rule is. It's like when your elbows are both hit the ground, but the rule is the rule, and I'm not against the decisions that were made a lot of the time. But the way I view it, if you both your elbows hit the ground, but there's still momentum and you're still moving in the tackle, I don't think the tackle's stopped. That's not how they rule it, but that's how I view it. I'm like, people will be rolling towards the ground on their way down. They hit that. As soon as they hit, that's like tackle made. That's the rule. That's fine. I don't love it.
Yeah, I feel like the more rugby league I watch, the less I understand about that rule. What were your thoughts on that one, Hammy?
Yeah, no, completely agree. I feel like sometimes you see them let it go. Sometimes when there's one arm on the ground, they'll pay it, or they'll bring it back and say, nah, you can't offload or whatever. But it is a very confusing interpretation, which seems to change randomly from time to time. I can't make too much sense of it.
What did you make of that one, Matty?
I thought it was a try, but I know according to the letter of the law, I get like a finger to player, elbow on the ground, double movement, and like whatever. But in that same game, Nfahu White knees Nicker in the head, and the ref looks at it and says, you know what, it was a complete accident, common sense. I'm going to use some common sense, and it wasn't a penalty and it wasn't suspended, which I'm happy with. So they used some common sense there. I think they used some common sense in this try as well. I actually think it was 2 good decisions all around.
Yeah, I'd like to compliment her on that play too. It was a pretty average pass by Connor Watson, complete. You know, you play a physical sport like this, that stuff's going to happen from time to time. It is what it is. I thought that was a good call. Before we move on to the Sharkies, before we move on to the Roosters, anything else to throw in there, Kempy?
Yeah, just on that try, look, I get it. I do get it. Technically, it was a bit of a weird one because if you go and watch, his hand actually comes off and then goes back on again. And so I can understand to a degree, Robbo's frustration. But in my eyes, I don't mind the ref having discretion in those situations. Like, I just think that in the fair dinkum department, was he tackled? Like, I understand the rules. You want to look at the rules. Technically, yeah. But like, if we were to sit here and go ask anyone, was that bloke actually tackled? I don't think so. I just don't think so. So it's one of those rules where sometimes you're going to get them, sometimes you're not going to get them. I personally was okay with it being a try. At the same time, I would have been okay if they had said that it wasn't a try. But I'm not too harsh on the ref there. You guys know that I've always been pretty okay with the refs having a bit of a say in the way they ref and having a kind of style of reffing and having their imprint on the game. I know it's hard then when it comes to consistency, but we don't have consistency anyway. Like, we're not even getting close to consistency. So I would rather the ref obviously has to play by the rules, but I do understand what you're saying though, Roo. Like the double movement, especially as what you and Timmy are saying, over the last couple of years, they've eased up a little bit on it. I feel like a couple of years ago, that would never have been given a try because they're just like black and white, not a try. He had a hand on him when he touched the ground. They have eased up in a bit. The only thing I ask for, and I think as well, the only thing Roosters fans will be asking for is if that happens for us, make sure that we get the try as well. I think that's probably the best way to sum it up.
There needs to be a written into the NRL law book, the bylaws of just fair dinkum department, and it's all around discretion. And whenever a ref goes, no, like guys, this is rugby league, this should be a try or no try, and they just cite the fair dinkum department. Because I'm with Campy, I would love more discretion to referees, but it's hard. Everyone you ask, some people just want black and white. This is the law. Let's stick by that. Others, and I think probably more those who have played a lot of rugby league in their life, go, no, like it's not all by a book. Like, give the ref some discretion around scenarios like this.
I think you've turned me around, boys. I think I'm on your side now.
Got him.
It's just the consistency we want out of it.
Yes.
You want the fair income department all the time, but it tends to be a spot that we're not great at. There was other moments later in the week, which we'll get to soon, that I thought very similar situation that they got wrong. But let's get to the Roosters. I thought Sammy Walker at halfback, I thought at times he just overplayed his hand throughout this game, and I personally, for the life of me, with all due respect to Chad, I can't believe Sandon Smith wasn't in this side. He was pulled from New South Wales Cup 2 days ago, so I would assume that means he's probably going to come in this week. I couldn't quite make sense of that one, Timmy.
I cannot believe it. I honestly, in a game this big for the Roosters, like, if they miss out on finals by one win or a 4 against, whatever it might be, this decision to play Chad over Sandon Smith could absolutely be it. And look, it looks now, reading between the lines, that Sandon's all but gone. Look, that's fine. They're going with Savala and they've made that decision. But the Roosters are in a position where they're trying to play finals footy and they're not rebuilding as such. Like, they're a side that if they get into finals, they're going to give it a shake. They've got a team to... Look, maybe a premiership's a bit of a stretch, but they can do it. And if things click for them with Sammy Walker as he gets a few more runs under his belt on return from that ACL injury. But Sandon Smith, who has been outstanding for them this year, and I love Robbo and everything he does, but he spoke post-game and mentioned a few things that Sandon had to go back and work on in Cup. There is no world where Chad Townsend was a better selection than Sandon Smith for this. And the result was, there was 13 points in it in the end. Maybe Sandon Smith can make up that difference. Maybe he can't, but I just don't think he picked his best halves for this game. Yeah, and as you said, mate, on the ladder, the Roosters, they're in 10th place now. They're on 22 competition points. The Sharks are in 8th. They're on 24. Welcome to my favourite segment of the week. What happens if we put buys in? The Sharkies and the Dolphins, the two teams above the Chooks, they've still got a bye to come. So the Roosters are 2 wins away from getting into that top 8, and their for and against is worse, and the Sharkies are notably worse than the Dolphins as well. Mate, it could be a decision that in hindsight, as you said, it could really bite them. And It goes in multiple ways, mate, because they also picked a 4-forward bench. So Sandon Smith can't even get on as a 14. I'm like, seriously. Billy Smith goes down injured early on in this game. They have to send a back rower in Egan Butcher out to centre, and he got exposed a few times there. Not his fault. He's a back rower who spent next to no time in the backs. So they didn't have coverage there. Like, how does Sandon not even play as your 14?
Yeah, it's a bizarre one. Hammy, thoughts?
Yeah, crucial game for the Chooks this one. Where you were talking about there, where they kind of sit on the ladder now. They've got 7 games to go. 5 of those games against top 8 sides, and 3 of them are against top 4 sides. So they probably really needed to win that game to give themselves a chance of making the finals. Interesting that Sandon's fallen out of favour with them a little bit. He was obviously the Anzac medalist and killed it earlier in the season in a really big game. Listening to Wally the Stats Man on SEN, he's a big Roosters fan, and he had an eye over the New South Wales Cup a couple of weeks ago. Apparently, in that game and the game leading into it as well, Sandon Smith not in great form, and he thought you almost couldn't pick him for first grade at the time. I don't know whether that kind of comes into it or whether Chad getting the nod comes down to the fact it was at Shark Park, a bit of a horses for courses, not sure. But I think you're right. They'll look back at this game and go, geez, that was an important one. And they definitely could have probably, I would have thought that Sandon Smith might have been at least a spot on the bench there.
What are your thoughts, Kempy?
Yeah, maybe it's hindsight. I'm trying to think of how I felt when it happened. So, maybe it's hindsight, but I tend to agree. I understand, like, let's say Sandon Smith's a bit out of form. I get that. I just reckon maybe Robbo leaned a little bit into the whole narrative of, it's against Cronulla. He's going to want to play really good against the Sharkies. He's a right side player as well, I'm pretty sure, Chad Townsend. So, yeah, I'm trying to remember how I felt when it happened, because I don't want to be too harsh on Robbo and be like a hindsight hero. What I will say, definitely in hindsight, I think everyone can agree, Chad Townsend wasn't the man for the job. I will say what I found surprising with the selection was, regardless of how Sandon Smith has played in reserve grade, what we do know for a fact is he's played better in first grade than Chad Townsend has this year. And so that's what surprised me, where I was like, okay, maybe I'm not seeing Sandon Smith each week in reserve grade, so that's probably why he selected Chad Townsend. I understand the narrative side of it, going back to Shark Park. But again, like this year, Sandon Smith has done multiple good jobs in first grade, whereas Townsend, unfortunately, I don't even think he might have had 1 or 2 good games in first grade this year. So I think, unfortunately, Robbo got it wrong this time.
I thought another big week for White. He really has emerged as the alpha middle in this pack this year, Timmy.
He goes from strength to strength, doesn't he? And again, the Roosters, they've had their share of injury drama as well, particularly to the pack and missing blokes through Origin and Nafahu White. And we've said it a few times how perplexing it was when they got rid of Terrell May last year. And, Robbo knew what he had in Nafahu White, didn't he? And he knew something that probably the rest of us hadn't quite seen, or we knew he was a good footballer, but to come on and be a dominant starter for them, yeah, he's been a huge win for them this season.
Anything else on that game there, boys?
No, good, mate.
No.
Matty, any thoughts? All right, let's... Was that Kempy?
Just quickly. Just a one little quick point as well. The other surprising thing for me was, like, they've got so many leaders in the side. If you were selecting Townsend for his leadership, I don't understand that either, because I feel like Roosters have so many, like, for example, just get Teddy to take the ball more often. Like, sorry to go back to the Chad Townsend one, but just thinking about it a little bit more, it does get a bit more surprising as I thought about it. I will say, for such a good year the Roosters have had, it's going to be so disappointing if they fall out of the 8. Like, it really will change a exciting year with all these youngsters that are doing really well to, I wouldn't say, a terrible year, because I think a lot of us didn't have them in the 8. But I just think that, some of these young guys gave Roosters fans so much hope. It was only a month ago where everyone's sitting there going, wow, and so I would hate for Roosters fans to have gotten their hopes up at this point of the year only for everything to fall away. That would be really disappointing. So hopefully they can find a way to bring it all back together.
I also think, if you're going to build your side around Sam Walker, which they evidently were, I just think Sandon is such a better fit with him. I just unless you're going to bring Chad in to be your halfback and steer you around, I just can't make sense of it. And as Kempy said, it's not hindsight. Like, we spoke about this on Beers and Break Evens. We just couldn't make sense of it.
That's it, mate. And like Kempy from his scenario is talking about hindsight. I just think from the moment it happened, it made no sense.
Like I was fully expecting a late change.
Yeah.
That's what I was anticipating, that one. It just, very, very, very strange one. Let's move to the late game Friday night. The Penny Panthers, 30 points to 10 over the South Sydney Rabbitohs. This injury toll for South Sydney. It just goes from bad to worse seemingly every week.
The Bunnies were 6th leading into Origin this season. Obviously lost Latrell through Origin, and the injury toll has just gone from bad to worse. And it's a shame for the competition and, to state the obvious for Bunnies fans, but it's just what could have been. Because I said 6 plays with the heavy injury toll leading into Origin, Wayne Bennett at the helm, and just all this strike. And up until Latrell got injured on the weekend, we had a fit Latrell as well going, all right, how far can this team go with a fit Latrell Mitchell if he can stay on the field? As it's turned out, he hasn't. Mate, they're now not even going to get close to making finals, and it's just going to be the season of what if for the South Sydney Rabbitohs, because the form was there with injuries, but they just keep adding up. You had Latrell to that, Cody Walker to that, Campbell Graham, he's had so many concerns all season. They just can't take a trick.
I don't think I've ever seen a team that has their first choice second rowers, first choice centres in a week. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Tallis Duncan and Ewan Aitken.
Yeah, and then obviously halves as well, all sorts of different things. And had they have not had that good start to the season where they were, defying the bookmakers and all the odds and all that sort of stuff, and they weren't winning games with their injury, I'd be like, well, look, even with injuries, they haven't shown anything. And, we cite the Dolphins at how they've been able to overcome injuries, but we saw that the Bunnies had good footy in them, even with injuries early in the year. So I'm like, it's just a shame.
What'd you take away from this one for your team, Matty?
It's one of those years where I've kind of checked out because I've never seen so many injuries in my entire life. It's been absolutely wild. The last time South won a game was against the Tigers and Lockie Galvin was playing. So it's been a tough old run. Haven't won a game since before Origin 1. I think they were 4 from 5 coming into round 6. And I think they started the extremely well considering, we had injuries from day one. We had injuries from before the Charity Shield when Cam Murray and Latrell went down. So it was a good start to the year. The losses were admirable. And to be honest, in this 7-game streak, I would say half of them have been admirable, and I'd count this one in it. I thought they lost 30 to 10, but I actually thought they showed a lot for such a young team. I thought they started the second half really well. It's just they haven't put 80 minutes together since about round 5, and it's just one of those years. You just it sounds like excuses, and I actually think they're valid. There's just so many injuries.
Matty, these injuries to Keon Klamatangi and Latrell Mitchell, I think it's probably a blessing in disguise, mate. They're not serious injuries. They're that sort of 4 to 6 week or maybe a little bit longer for Latrell, where you just go, boys, we're playing for nothing. Get yourselves right.
I heard on Triple M, Jai Arrow said that Cam Murray's going to come back at the end of the year, and it made me bloody sick.
Do not.
It made me sick, and I understand that Cam Murray is hurting right now. He's desperate to get out there. Anyone that knows him would know. This would be making him sick right now, not being able to be out there with his teammates. He's the captain of the team, and I'm sure he wants to get out there, but oh my God, please wait till next year.
Cam Murray's probably looking at the Kangaroos.
He's without a doubt looking at the Ashes tour, and so he should be.
Yeah,
and that's fair, and I have no problem with that at all.
Yeah,
But,
geez, if I'm picking a 25-man squad to go over there, if Cam Murray's, I don't care if he hasn't played footy this year, I'd be picking him.
Don't play for that. Get him some run somewhere. If he's fit and good to go, you just pick him.
I'll tell you one little silver lining. I've been critical of him throughout this season. I thought this was Sean Kepi's best game.
It was. It definitely was.
He was fantastic in this one. 30 to 10, they weren't in it, but as I said, a guy I've been critical of, I thought he was really good in this game. Ham, thoughts?
Yeah, look, not a lot I can really add there outside of, they're just so decimated by injuries. And it's not just, some people go, every team's had injuries this year, but have they had their starting number 7, their fullback, their captain? These are big ones that it's tough to really be too harsh on the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Other silver linings, maybe just getting a little bit of game time into other guys for next year for a bit of depth. But look, they came up against a red hot Panthers team who are humming at the moment. The Bunnies are hurting. I think they still had a rip and a tear. Can't fault them too much.
And shout out to Savion LeBlanc, who scored his first try of his NRL career. I really like the look of him.
Mate, I had him jotted down as well. He's never going to be a well beater, but he's got a bit of that Loiero, Cotter sort of vibe to him where he just goes and goes and goes. The effort areas where even a Lindsay Collins in Origin where I think we're going to have moments, and I've already seen them with LeBlanc, where he just pops up in spots he shouldn't be. Just whether that's getting across to cover a tackle or just these little things. And He looks good, doesn't he?
Yeah, he looks the goods. Kempy, South Sydney Rabbitohs?
Yeah, I think the wider concern is how many years it's been now with all these injuries. I don't know. Obviously they've got the smartest minds in rugby league would be working on their fitness and their sessions, and like there would be so much money being poured into and so many resources being poured into like why these injuries are happening. But that's the biggest concern. It's the big this isn't just the first or second year. Like I think it's been 3 years in a row now where they've been at least in the top 4 or 5 most injuries sides in the competition. And Matty could probably confirm or deny that.
It's the
where you look at teams that win rugby. Sorry.
No, sorry, you go. It's last year they were 1, this year they were 1, and the year before they were up there as well.
Yeah, so you look at that, and you know that's almost like if there is one thing that guarantees a poor season, it's injuries. If there's one thing that guarantees usually a good season, it's the least amount of injuries. Look at the Penrith Panthers. I think for 4 years they've had the least amount of long-term injuries of any club in the competition. And so I think that's the wider concern for the Rabbitohs, is that this is a multi-year thing. Now, that doesn't mean it's anyone's fault. Things that are unlucky happen all the time. But it just means that if there are certain things that you can tweak to try and help, try to do it. Because, they've been so brave. They've been so tough. I will say I'm a little bit worried about Latrell with these soft tissue injuries and Cody Walker. I mean, there's not many people that love Latrell and Cody Walker more than me. Like, I'm such a fan of them, legends of blokes, and it's not their fault. But just the amount of soft tissue injuries that I've had over the last couple of years, just a little bit concerning.
Boys, do we think AJ gets to the record this year? He needs 5 tries, 7 games to go. They've got a bye, so they've only got 6 games left. They do have games against the Titans and the Eels, which you assume there'd be points in there, but also games against the Chooks, the Broncos, the Sharkies. It's going to be tight.
If Latrell was on deck, I'd say, yeah, absolutely. Without Latrell, I know it probably means he plays fullback. I don't know how far Dry Gray's off, but at fullback, I don't know, mate.
Yeah.
If Latrell's on deck, I'd say absolutely he does. It changes a bit.
I think round 1 next year against the Roosters, that's when it'll happen. And the NRL will schedule it that way. I reckon that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
If he's got to keep playing fullback, no. If he can find a way back onto the wing, I think he can break it this year. But that's obviously he scored on the weekend, but yeah, that's his spot out on the left wing.
Could there be a better start to the season than round 1, a record break, and everyone flood the ground?
Yeah, and it'd give the NRL a whole off-season to prepare for the flooding onto the field.
Hopefully it's not at Allianz because it doesn't cope well with the flooding. So might have to put it at Homebush.
Resident try-scoring whiz on the panel after myself. Kempy, what do you reckon? Does he get there or not?
Lock him in, son. Lock him in. You guys, ye of little faith. No, we're talking about the greatest try scorer of all time, and you don't reckon he's getting 5 for the rest of the season? Jeez, no faith whatsoever.
All right, let's talk about the Penrith Panthers. We've already spoken about Dill Edwards. He was obviously the best on the ground. You can go back and listen to the start of the podcast to tune to that. Boys, I thought Casey McLean, for a guy that got dropped at the start of the season, defensively was really struggling. I've heard out of Panthers that he's been working relentlessly on it, staying after training on numerous occasions and whatnot. Mate, the improvement in him has been incredible. I think he's a guy that absolutely has to stay in this team.
Yeah, they struggled a bit early on in the season, McLean in particular and Jenkins, but their combination has come along so well, hasn't it? And the biggest example of this is you look at the Penrith Panthers, you go, what is their strong side, what is their weak side? And on the left edge, they have a rookie in Blaze Talangi. They've had a ton of different edge back rollers between Sorensen and Garner and Pupley because people keep getting injured. And then you go McLean and you go Jenkins. Then you go to the right edge, and I know players have missed game, I get it, but it's the dominant Dylan Edwards attacking edge. It's Nathan Cleary. It's been Luke Garner of late, but Liam Martin, Brian To'o, Isaac Tungo, clearly the dominant edge. Mate, the Panthers are scoring 50% of their tries on the left edge of the field, 28% on the right. It is like they're very dominant edge on the left, and this combination of McLean and Jenkins, it's just going from strength to strength. You can just tell they're trusting each other more defensively, and McLean with his tip-ons to Jenkins, knowing he'll be there in the right place. It's the development of the combination of them two has been awesome to see it unfold. I'll
tell you one thing with Blaze Talangi I'm noticing more and more is that he can have a 10-minute period in a game where you think, oh my God, it falls apart tonight. He's got the worst memory in the NRL. He just doesn't care, does he? He just gets on with the job, and he always manages to either slightly come out on top or just sort of break even the last few weeks. But I think they are heading in the right direction with him. It's still rough around the edges. I think it always will be with Blaze. He's not a 5'8", but I think he's making a fist of it.
Well, that's what putting a bit of faith in a player does, especially a young player. And you go, no, mate, like the way it's played out, it wouldn't surprise me if once Ivan gave me stage, said, mate, you've got the next 10 weeks, or you've got the rest of the season. We're investing in you, and it's reaping the rewards with him. And, mate, I think Ivan Cleary as a whole, we'll see how the season pans out, but he's putting on an absolute coaching masterclass with the way he's rested players and managed this. And in my eyes, Ivan Cleary, who has learnt from backing players up around that origin period to injuries, including Nathan Cleary, I think he's learnt a lot from it. And Ivan Cleary is sitting there going, I want to win a comp with this side. I don't want to make up numbers come finals. I don't want to scrape into finals with Nathan and Dill Edwards and Isaiah Yeo and all these players half injured and we get knocked out week 1 of the finals because we finish 8th. He's going, I'm going all or nothing. And he's rested players in key weeks and he's put faith in the next not the next generation, the level down to come in and do a job, which was a bit of a risk, but they won these games and the depth did the job. And now what that has enabled Penrith to do is they're going to have players like Cleary and Dill Edwards and that relatively well rested compared to like a Melbourne Storm with a Harry Grant or not saying it was related to backing up from Origin, but a Tino Vasul Malawi who picked up another injury on the weekend, I think was impact. So not saying it was related, but you know what I mean? Like, he's gone balls to the wall and gone, I'm resting players, I'm getting ourselves right for finals. All of a sudden, they're going to be in good shape coming into finals and they can win a comp again.
It's incredible, isn't it? Like, I'm sort of looking at their team this week going, surely you just rest Brian Toto after coming off with an injury. You got Alamotti. Mate, 7 weeks ago, if you would have said rest Brian Toto, it would have been burn the village down.
Yeah.
Like they were right at the bottom of the ladder struggling. The turnaround's been incredible. I think Luke Garner's been a big part of that as well. He was fantastic the other night. I don't know where his NRL career goes from here, but I know there's a lot of clubs that are having a look at him. I'm sure there'd be a new franchise, Perth, coming in to be having a very good look at him. But if I'm Penrith, I think you need to keep him.
Mate, between his ability to play centre and back row, and the funny thing with Luke Garner is we've already spoken about him, about McLean and how good he's been. Luke Garner, he was getting picked ahead of McLean for a long period there. And in terms of his future going forward, whether he's a starting back rower, I just think he's the perfect bench player that when injuries hit, like he could be an 80-minute edge back row every week, I've no doubt, but he's just perfect off the bench. He offers that, the Ben Trebojevic sort of role where it allows Ivan Cleary to carry a full-forward bench because you've got Luke Garner there that that if anyone goes down in the back line, he goes to centre and he does a job. That's invaluable.
Yeah, for sure. Hammy?
Yeah, I mean, they're humming at the moment, aren't they? And what a turnaround it's been since the start of the season. The squad depth is great. Guys are just stepping in and it feels like it's back to that old Penrith system, next man up kind of thing that they had going a little while ago. They didn't have that at the start of the year, but they're primed really well to make a bit of a charge at the premiership. They probably can't finish in the top 4, you wouldn't think, unless things go their way a fair bit. But I think they're set as well as they can be for a team that at one stage was last, at the start of June. So, what a turnaround it's been, and they've got every chance of having a crack at a 5-peat.
Beak, what did you take away from this game on the Penrith Panthers?
Oh, man, I tell you what, look, without tooting my own horn, and look, I don't get it right all the time, but I feel like I usually have a pretty
Sound
good
like you're about to toot your own horn.
All right, I'll toot my own horn. So I feel like I usually have a pretty good read. Like I'm pretty good at reading, where a club is at and, where their development's at. And I got to say, Panthers fans have every right to gloat because at this, when it got to about June, I was like, they just can't do it. I don't think that they can upskill their players quick enough to get them into the finals. Next year, they're going to be a problem. And so I totally get why Panthers fans will go, you said that, I've got to be held accountable for that. I will, put my hand up. I said that. But I will say, after the game on the weekend, they actually have come out and said that we looked back at the start of the year and we were not training the way we knew we should be training. We weren't training hard enough. The intensity wasn't there. And so, as I said, I'll put my hand up and hold myself accountable for saying that I don't think they can do it this year. They're out. But I will say, it does show you why a lot of people thought that, because even they are admitting that they were not training hard enough for the first half of the year. And the reason for their turnaround has been because they have lifted intensity. They have lifted their training standard, and you can see it on the footy field. And as you just said, McLean is an example of that. Jenkins is an example of that. You know, across the board, like Papali'i at 13, I don't mind him at 13. I like him in the middle. There's all these players that clearly weren't fully buying into the Panthers development system for the first half of the year. They all decide to go, you know what, we're going to draw a line in the sand, and this is them saying this, not me. We're going to draw a line in the sand after the Knights game, and we're going to buy into the Panthers everyone. Our whole lives are getting bought into it, and this is the result. This is the result, another year showing that, yes, they have had great coaches in Ciraldo, great coaches in Webster, but Ivan Cleary and everything going on at the Panthers, they are the masterminds of what has happened, and that they've proven it by this new, like, totally fresh playing group has all of a sudden, if you take their season from, like, you know, late May to now, they'd be a top 4 side. It's absolutely incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
The Panthers this week take on the West Tigers with Isaiah Yeo and Nath Cleary back in. Bit of value on the Panthers at $1.29 there.
Oh, come on. That's a low blow, Roo. No need for that. Just because you're sitting in that seat doesn't mean you need to relentlessly bully me about the Tigers. No, I think the boys live for the Dane Laurie Cup. I think it's coming home to Concord.
Dane Laurie Cup. All right, anything else on that game, boys?
All good, mate.
Just quickly, I think they absolutely need to rest Toto. Not just for 1 week, maybe for 2 weeks, because if they are to make a push for this 5th straight, I just think, you know, like Toto has been playing banged up for a while now, and I just think it's really important. And look, Ivan Cleary is almost the best ever. Look, I mean, actually, you know what? Ivan Cleary is probably the best ever player manager when it comes to load, because we've never seen 4 in a row and they might go 5 in a row. So he's literally the best ever coach at managing Origin. But I do think Toto, if you just give him 2 weeks off, just so he's not, you know, covered in braces, and I just think that it'd just be really good for the run home to freshen him up, and also obviously give some of these other guys that are killing it right now, like Alamotti's kicking game. Where the hell did this short kicking game come from, Alamotti? Like, you know, like Critter was there as the man. He literally won the grand final with his short kicking game, essentially. He leaves, and then Alamotti, you know, a guy that couldn't get a club essentially when he was at the Doggies, even when he gets to the Panthers, doesn't look like he hits the ground running. All of a sudden, he's got the best short kick game in the friggin' competition. It's unbelievable.
I think it's a really good point about Brian Toto, and that's got nothing to do with my Supercoach draft game this weekend, Timmy. I think they should rest him.
Let him go.
Yeah, non-bias. Okay, all right, let's get stuck into Super Saturday. The Raiders 40 defeating the Eels 16, brought to you by the Bloke Club. Links down below in the description, guys, giving away prizes, doing fantastic things. There's cars flying around in there, Kempy. It's wild.
Oh, absolutely. It's wild. I can't wait to get out of here, if I'm being honest. It's when you are in Vegas by yourself. What?
No, keep going.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying, when you're in Vegas by yourself and the event's not on anymore, it almost feels a little bit sad, like you're a pathetic loser with no life. So I can't wait to get home.
Well, you come to the Bloke Club for, baby. Come and join us. All right. Raiders 40 over the Eels 16. Kick off with your green machine, Timmy. Doing great things once again. You left it a little bit late in this game, but my God, when you clicked into gear, scary sight.
That's the beauty of it, right? Like, we were down 16-12 at half time and just never really felt worried. And that was Parramatta playing some really good footy. We looked a little bit off, but there's been a lot of games this year where we've had quite big leads and we've conceded late tries, and it's got within a try, or we've come from behind, and we've just been so patient. And I think it's a sign of a good club, but a club that believes in the footy that they're playing. And, you know, you see it at times. Like the Doggies are another one who have been very patient with their footy, but if I've had any knock on them at certain times this year when they've been behind, they've chased games a little bit. I think it was the Penrith game, maybe they chased it a little too hard and didn't sort of just stick to their routines and their plays. But the Raiders do, and not only did we overcome the halftime deficit, but we won by 24 points in the end. And they've done it all year.
Mate, you won by 24 points and you bombed 2 tries in the last 15 minutes as well. Like, this could have been a real blow. I don't think the scoreline is a fair reflection of how this game played out.
It's not. Parramatta were better than that, but like Para finished with a freaking 59% completion rate.
Yep.
So had they have tidied that up a little bit, or maybe it would have been a bit tighter. As you said, the Raiders got away late. Para were better than the scoreline suggests, but it also shows the Raiders' ability to just turn it on and go bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, and as well, in the first, 7 or 8 minutes, it was clinical by the Raiders. I almost think that start was too good for you. I think you got a little bit comfortable. Parramatta fought their way back into it. Thoughts, Hammy?
Yeah, they were very good out of the blocks, the Raiders. Obviously, 2 tries in the first 6 minutes. That probably... yeah, you're right. Probably was a little bit too good for them. But the sign of a great team and a sign of a team that could have a tilt at a premiership, I always find is ones that win ugly. Probably not playing at their best, but they played well enough for long enough to still win quite convincingly. So, yeah, they probably left the door ajar there for Parramatta a little bit. But, there's things for them to work on and they're still winning like that. I think that's a really good sign. So they've got a great run home, a lot of games in Canberra. And they've got enough of a gap now. They're probably staring down the barrel of a top 2 finish. And it's going to be tough for teams to go down there and knock them off if they get 2 home finals. Obviously,
you're 5'8" over the last few years, Timmy Jack White, and a very unique kind of 5'8" by usual standards. He's left. I thought, okay. And I sort of thought, okay, maybe this will give him an opportunity to go in a different direction, that 6 jersey. You've gone in the exact same direction. He looks so much like Jack White at the moment. It's wild to me.
They're so similar, aren't they? They're just like, I sit there and go, and his whole career will probably have conversations about what is Ethan Strange's best position, but don't fix what ain't broken. He's playing 5'8" and he's been killing it. He's like, I wouldn't want to see him in an organisational 7 role or anything. He's just a ball running number 6. The key to Ethan Strange will be finding the right halfback to play with him, and you need a really good old-fashioned organising number 7 because you don't want Ethan to worry about that. You want him being on ball. You want, when there's a break, you want him following along. You want him, you want that energy that he brings to the team. Same as Cameron Munster. Cameron Munster will never run a team, nor should he. It's not his job. His best footy is being this, on-ball 5'8". Run. Don't worry about getting the team around the park, and he's just getting better and better, isn't he?
You mentioned that the Raiders, mate, were very patient throughout this game, and I thought Ricky Stewart, his decision of when to put Owen Paddy into this game was perfect. There was moments in that game where I was going, geez, they're just not... They just don't look like they usually do, and I probably would have injected him earlier, to be honest with you, but the moment he did, he obviously scored 2 tries, but his ruck recognition is just incredible for the age he's at. And I know Jaden Brayley's arriving down there next year. Tom Starling's still going to be there, but I think in 2 or 3 times you're going to have a very, very special player in your hands.
Mate, there's a few things that sort of Ricky does, whether it's selection based or when he puts players on and the minutes rotation that you question. But, mate, Ricky can do no wrong at the moment with the Raiders and just all these moves he's making. On Paddy, you mentioned that ruck recognition, that awareness. I mentioned that, around Ethan Strange, how you want him just following the ball and staying alive in the play. On Paddy's the same. He's supported for an offload for a try there. And I think the best number 9s in the game, they do that. They don't just go, all right, I've passed the ball, I'm going on to the next play, I'm worrying about that and looking around. It's staying alive because they're the first person at the ruck. And when that arm goes free, he's ready to go bang. He scored a try off it. He scored another one off an exceptional line break late in the game, just nipping in behind the markers. The acceleration he's got over that first 5-10 metres, it's elite little speed, isn't it?
Yep, for sure. What'd you make of this game for the Raiders, Campy?
Yeah, I tell you what, I got to say, I felt like the Eels, I don't think the Eels would have won it. I feel like the Raiders would have eventually come back to finish them off. But I tell you what, they were completing so well and they just went, I don't know what happened, what minute it was, but they just went error, and the game just completely got out of their grasp. And so, look, that's going to happen when you're in the bit of a rebuild when it comes to the Eels. I just think it was a missed opportunity to really stamp how far they had come as a club. And as I said, to take nothing away from the Raiders, I always felt like that they were going to come back, and they've done it so many times this year. But I just couldn't believe how high completion rate, and it's like they came out in the second half and it just all fell apart. It was bizarre how by the end of the game they were, as you said, they were down to 50%. In the first half, I think they were hovering around 80. So I feel like Riles is just going to be really frustrated. We played one half of footy where we've shown how far we've come, and then in the next half we played like rookies again. So I just feel like the Eels are going to see as a missed opportunity. In regards to the Raiders, I mean, they've just got to sort their starts out. I think that's I could sit here and be like, oh, how good they won ugly. I mean, I already knew that with the Raiders. I'm way past that with the Raiders. Now I'm starting to go, how do they win the comp? How do they win the comp? They win the comp by not having slow starts like that. They win the comp by being completely ruthless the 80-minute period. And so I think that's probably going to be their biggest challenge is can they put any team away? Yes. But to win a premiership, They need to play 80 minutes of ruthless rugby league, and I think that's going to be their biggest challenge heading into the back end of the year. So I just want to make it clear. I'm not going, the Raiders didn't play well, or it's not great they got to win it all. I'm saying my expectation for the Raiders is now, how do you get to that next level? It's about being ruthless for 80. If this Raiders side can be ruthless for 80 minutes, they absolutely can win the premiership this year. And I don't mean it's a long odds for them to do it. I mean, right now, I would back the Raiders against any side in the competition in a grand final tomorrow if I could feel like they're going to play for 80 minutes. That's how good they're playing, in my opinion.
Just on Parramatta there, as I said, I felt like the scoreline didn't really represent their effort they had in this game. I thought that most teams in a rebuild and the position the Parramatta Eels find themselves in without a lot of key players missing. I think there was a stat during the game, one of the commentators said that in the same game last year, Sean Russell was the only player of the 17 that ran out for the Eels that day. That's unbelievable. There's been 16 other changes in 12 months to the team that ran out. Obviously, there's injuries like, Moses, Kelmer and whatnot, but it was 16 different dudes compared to last year outside of Sean Russell. Wow. For them to go down 12-0 after 5 or 6 minutes, name me a rebuild team in the past that doesn't go, shut up shop, we'll see you next week. They fought their way back into it. The second half was awful. A lot of drop ball, a lot of things went wrong, but I think there are still a lot of silver linings that Parramatta fans, a tough afternoon can take out of it.
Well, that stat says it all, doesn't it? You talk about rebuilds, 16 different players, and then the one that is there is Sean Russell still, and that's it. To come out and concede the 2 early tries, you went, all right, the Raiders are going, this could be an enormous scoreline. For Parramatta to bounce back and lead at halftime, and it wasn't through luck or anything or things going their way. They just played bloody good football. They executed some really nice backline movements for tries. The Zach Lomax try in the corner was really nice, and you thought, we've got a game on our hands here. And, all right, the back end of the game, they faded, and that's fine. But they conceded 3 tries in the last 10 minutes when the game was just about gone sort of thing. But Jason Riles, he'll be low-key very, very happy with what he's seeing from this side because the Raiders being title contenders and the Eels pushed them for, I know it was only 40 to 50 minutes, but the signs are good.
I really like what Jason Riles is doing with this side as far as the big calls he's making. Obviously, Joe Ash played 5'8" the other day. Really struggled in defence. Got picked apart, but I think at some point he's going to have to learn those hard lessons, and I'd rather him do it in the next 7 weeks than in the first 7 weeks of next season.
And that's it, mate. Parramatta have not picked their best team for this game. But, it sounds bad, but Jason Riles isn't going out there with this team giving them the best chance to win this game, but he is amplifying their chances of winning round 1 next year when it does matter, when finals come back into the contention and he's building for a premiership. If he's doing everything he can to win this game, Dylan Brown starts at 5'8", Joe Ash, he's off the bench or not in the team, but he's building.
I thought this was the first time in a number of weeks that Jermaine Hopgood had looked back to his normal self too.
Been a weird year for Jermaine Hopgood.
Bizarre year, yeah.
You'd think playing injured, but I haven't heard anything as such, but he just doesn't look like himself, but he was great on the weekend.
What are your thoughts, Kempy?
Just back to the Josh Papali'i one. What I love about it as well is that it's almost saving his next season. And what I mean, saving the Eels next season. And what I mean by that is that he gets to get a really good look at Josh Papali'i in the 6 jersey and know by the time the season ends, is this guy going to be my starting 6 next year? Because if he's not, do we need to bring the young guy in during the preseason? Do we need to go into the market? It actually is, because if, let's say he didn't do this, let's say he didn't have the guts to make this call, he starts round 1 next year and he plays 6 or 7 poor games. That could end their season next year. So what Riles is doing by doing this is literally having arguably the best preparation possible for next season. I think it's brilliant. I'm with you guys. I think, as I said, I think Riles being the competitor is, he'll be really frustrated that the completion rate completely dropped off a cliff. But at the same time, to go 40 to 50 minutes in the first year of a rebuild with the best team in the competition, that's a big win. That's a big win in my opinion.
I think as well the beauty of it is that Mitch Moses, he's due to return in round 21 this week coming. So not only will the coach know, but I think the halfback will know if he's the guy he wants next to him heading into next season.
Well, that's it, hey? Yeah, who does Mitch Moses want to play with next year?
Yeah. What'd you take away from that one, Hammy, for the Eels?
Yeah, you've kind of touched on the tough calls there and how they're going to benefit them going forward. I think there has been some green shoots this year from the Eels. They've obviously brought a lot of new people in. You can see the direction that they're kind of heading as well. So, they played a good little patch of football there in the first half and showed what they're kind of capable of, or what we'll hopefully see a bit more from them from next year. But, yeah, some good tough calls being made. They'll pay off in the long run. And Moses back this week is huge. I think they've probably done enough, or they've shown me enough to suggest that I don't think they'll be in that spoon conversation, even though they're down there at the moment. But I think they're tracking nicely. You can see where they're heading, the Parramatta Eels.
Just before we move on, Roo, Jed Stewart.
Just quickly.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
You go, Campy.
I was just going to say the one. No, there's a couple of negatives, but the one negative for the Eels is Zach Lomax's defensive reads. You know, it's only going to get worse before it gets better, because teams are clearly identifying the fact that he can have a tendency to not make his tackles when he needs to. That's just one area where I think that they've just got to find a way to just nail it out, because otherwise teams are just going to go there all the time. I'd love to get your boys' thoughts on that.
I feel like since that Origin game, there's been a bit of a turn with him defensively. I feel like he's a bit more like a cat in a hot tin roof for me. What are your thoughts?
Well, that was the matchup going into the game that really concerned me. I'm going, all right, Jed Stewart, a rookie on Zach Lomax, like a proven Origin winger, and Jed Stewart took the points, didn't he? Like, especially aerially, he did a really good job on Zach Lomax, and diffused a lot of bombs and crossfield kicks, and he finished with a pair of tries, 3 line breaks, and Lomax scored one as well in the corner. But I think Jed Stewart won that battle, which is a huge moment for the rookie.
Thoughts, Ham?
Yeah, Jed Stewart, I thought did a pretty good job as well. Completely agree. But yeah, Lomax, ever since Origin, there was a few moments there that have been a bit of a question mark for him. Still getting through a lot of work and things like that, but it's probably just one little area of his game that, it's been a strength for a little while, but teams are starting to turn it into a little bit of a weakness. So that'll be something we'll need to work on for sure.
Anything else on that game, boys?
Nah.
No.
All right, let's move to the 5:30 game on Saturday. They had the Canterbury Bulldogs 20 points to 18 over the Dragons, and I thought at the time that nothing was going to beat the way that this game finished. Little did I know what would come on Sunday, but Lockie Galvin, the big play at the end there. I got a little bone to pick. I can't believe how much people are critical on Lockie Galvin around that play and whatnot. I mean, the amount of people that I'm seeing on socials telling me that any halfback could have done that. It's like, okay. Sure, like his job is to react to what the defence does. He did it perfectly. Like you even had Cooper Cronk and Sean Johnson who got up to break down that play and explain it to people. I think people are just going at this kid for the sake of going at him. No one went harsher on him than I did when the news first broke about the Tigers and everything. But I think people are carrying on a little bit. Kempy, what are your thoughts, mate?
Mate, I'm with you. I am absolutely with you. Listen, I think we can all agree that we really didn't like how it was handled with Galvin and the Tigers. Everyone, you can go back and you can watch. We were very, very strong on our opinions. Like, we did not like it. But you're telling me, a 19-year-old that's been in the headlines for the last 6 months, essentially, pulls off a play like that, and you're not going to give him raps? It's like, come on, man. Like, I'm not asking anyone to be a massive fan of Lockie Galvin or whatever, but you got to respect when someone does something good. Like, you don't have to love him. You don't even have to like him, but you got to respect a bloody good play from a young player. I'm not even saying he was the best player on the field, because he wasn't. He, had a couple of good moments, but when the game was on the line, he threw the match-winning pass. If that was a player you liked, you'd be sitting there going, that was a bloody good play. People are just getting too caught up in the fact that they're holding against how he left the Tigers. And look, I get that. You don't have to like the kid, but geez, to say that's not a bloody good play, it's just like, come on, man, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I think it's very harsh. And I also think it's very evident. Like, if you have a look at the set before that, they go down that side and Viliame Kikau goes through a pass and Sloan shoots up on him. Like, I think you could tell by the way Galvin was ball playing down that edge, that was something he identified. He was waiting for that cue to pull the trigger, and he nailed it. And I think the big question that I would ask, does Toby Sexton pull that play off? Maybe.
No.
It's not a definitive yes for me, though, by any means. And if I was a betting man, I'd back Galvin in to pull that play, because he's one of those, he's got that X factor to him. He's got that confidence in his game that I think that's what Gus and Serrato have seen.
Well, put it this way, game on the line, and this is not a knock on Toby Sexton, but Toby Sexton isn't roaming to the outside of the field and calling the range and throwing that pass, so not a chance he does. And that's what they've signed Lockie Galvin for. They're looking for a strike half who can win games of footy, and he's just done that. I thought Kempy summed it up well. He wasn't the best player on the field, not even close to it, and there's a few, teething issues in his combination with Matty Burton and the players around him, which is natural, and he turned 20 a week ago, and the amount of pressure on this kid's shoulders, like, as Kempy said, if this was Isaiah Katoa that threw that ball, people would be drooling, going, oh, he comes up with a match winner. That pass was superb. The recognition of Tyrell Sloan shooting up. But for Lockie Galvin, for very different reasons, there's a bit of that Nico Hines to him where people are just looking for reasons to shoot him down, and it's, all right, what's happened has happened. That's fine. It's been a drama-filled year for Galvin and the way that all unfolded. But at the end of the day, he came out and did exactly what he was signed for and came with a match-winning play with a bloody good pass.
Did your burner accounts get a workout the other day?
No, look, I've just given up on those. Clearly, they're not working. Look, I did think there was a little bit of carry on, but I do understand where it all kind of comes from. Like, this is what they brought in to the club to do when the game was on the line, you know. Yes, they probably should have been a bit more convincing against the Dragons. There was some teething issues through the rest of the game, but hey, when the big moment was there, he got it done, didn't he? So he's going to take a lot of confidence from that. It's going to bode well for the rest of the year because they've made the call now that he's their guy. So yeah, I'm sure he'll take a lot out of a big moment like that. And the interesting thing for me was all the guys just getting so around him. You know, they want it to work. They can kind of see the vision of the club as well. So a big moment. Well done to him for icing it. But yes, it did hurt a little bit to see it.
I will say, I understand people's frustration of sick of talking about Galvin. I get it. I'm with you. I trust me. I'm with you. We try to avoid it as much as we can, but you got to show respect where it's due. And in my opinion, I thought it was a really good play. But in regards to the Bulldogs, I will say, and I'm not trying to be a hater. I am getting a little bit worried with the Bulldogs when we're talking about premiership threats. I am of the mind. I think Hammy, you alluded to it. You know, they were very lucky to get away with that win. Very lucky. And I think that, you know, we're not that far away from finals footy. Yes, it is great they got the win, but it's been about a month you could even nearly go 6 weeks where they haven't been great. They got to find a way to work it out because, you know, finals footy is coming up pretty quickly. They get up against some of these other sides that are absolutely thriving right now. They're going to get done, I reckon. Yeah,
I think they are the most intriguing side to watch over the next month. I agree with you. I think they got pretty lucky in this one. I thought that there was a couple of referee decisions in the last probably 5 minutes I thought were very harsh on the Dragons. But I don't know, maybe I'm just drinking the Serraldo Kool-Aid too much. I kind of think he's going to make it work. I think we're starting to see slowly positive signs. This is game one. And, you know, people said during, you know, after the game, they looked better with Sexton. No shit, they look better with Sexton. He's had 18 months to learn to understand this side. Galvin's had one game as the starting halfback. I think they'll build off this. So I'm a little bit more optimistic about Canterbury. What are your thoughts, Timmy?
Yeah, I'm on the Kool-Aid side as well, mate, having a little dip into that cup. And I just think, I'm with you, Roo, that it was his first, I think, full game in the halves with Matty Burton. And we've been saying for weeks now, Serraldo has to make a decision. Does he start him or does he play him off the bench in a different sort of utility role? And he did it this week. And in his first starting game with Matty Burton, he set up the match winner. Like, you can't ask for too much more than that. And as you said, the question is, and I think why they signed Lockie Galvin, Toby Sexton will do a job and he can get them to finals, but does he have the X factor as a half to win them a comp? I don't know that he does. Lockie Galvin, it could all unravel, but he does have the X factor to win them a comp. And he's shown with a play like that, he can come up with the big moments. So the question will be, how does this halves combination, does it have enough time to come together to win a premiership this season? Because Lockie Galvin's a pretty unique half. I mean, at the end of the day, I think he's an out-and-out 5'8". He's playing as number 7. He's a ball runner. And we saw even in this one, he scammed across the left side of the field to Matty Burton's spot. And he gets a lot of touches. He wants to run the ball a lot. He's very different to the style of Toby Sexton. Can they make this work in such a short time frame this year to win a comp? I don't know, but it'll be intriguing to see it play out.
Now, we've got Bronson Cherry to come back into this side. He'll be at centre. We've got Marcelo Montoya back soon. Is Rinakama giving it a shake to be in this first choice side?
Well, Montoya's gone for a bit longer. So the decision next week will be Tuala or Rinakama, but Rinakama's been bloody good.
Yeah, I think for now, anyway, I think you have to get
just quickly,
in there.
Boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, just quickly, just back on that topic you guys are talking. I agree with you. I've got no issue with the halves and whether it will work with the Bulldogs. I'm actually just more a bit concerned around these massive second half fade-offs that they're having. The fact that some of their key forwards are making errors where they shouldn't. They're not as suffocating for the whole 80 minutes. That's more where my concern lays. It's not whether Galvin will be better in the halves or with Burton or whatever. I'm with you, boys. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. big believer in Seraldo. It's actually everything around that, in the fact that, you know, you go all the way back to their Broncos loss where they completely capitulated in the second half. You go all the way to their Cowboys game, complete capitulation in the second half against the Cowboys. The Cowboys were just so bad that they managed to get through it. Go against the Dragons, complete, you know, falling apart essentially for a period there. And so I just think I'm not saying they won't sort it. I'm just saying they need to sort it, because if they go into finals like this, I think they'll lose against the top tier sides.
Yeah, very fair, mate. As far as Montoya and Rinakama in this team looking into the future, where do you sit on that one?
Jeez, it's a tough one, isn't it? This young fella, he looks electric. He looks fast. He gets the match winner on the weekend. You know, the only thing that I really like about Montoya that he's quite unique is, geez, when he runs with so much venom. He injures people when he runs, and that's a very hard thing to replace. I think, you know, long term for sure, there's a space for the rookie on the wing. What I will say is my mind is blown that I'm sitting here going, maybe, whereas, you know, a couple of weeks ago I said there's no way a rookie's going to take that spot. I think that, it's a very interesting watch. Very interesting watch.
All right, on to the St. George Illawarra Dragons. As I said, I thought that penalty late on Leilua, I thought that was pretty harsh. I didn't think, I think it might have been Tuwala potentially. Didn't really get to his feet. I'm not sure how the bunker came to that decision. What are your thoughts, Timmy?
I vaguely remember the incident, but not enough to say. I can't remember exactly to make a call on it. Kempy might have a better shout on it.
It was just, it was Leilua at first marker. He got up to play the ball. Ball kind of hit. I don't think he was up all the way. I don't know. I thought it was
that's
a tough
it.
one.
And then Leilua had his foot in the ruck, didn't he?
Yes.
Oh, it was a tight one, wasn't it? Because his foot was in the ruck, but geez, he tried to play the ball at a very quick speed from an awkward situation. Put it this way, I was happy for it to go either way. Fence sitting, but I wouldn't have been upset with either call.
Tough. Yeah. I got to say, I feel like that's been a penalty all year, to a maddening degree as well. Like last week, and it was against the Dogs, Marnie gets up, plays the ball fine, but then falls over after he plays the ball, and a penalty against him. And this is the issue with consistency. Like, I'm all for, you know, a bit of grey area, but they've been super consistent with this all year long, where even if you play the ball fine and you fall over, it's a penalty against you. That's happened so many times this year. I thought it was a really, really poor call. I will say, however, though, I've got to say Gutho's short dropout, 4 minutes to go, you're just sitting there just going, like, you know, he's been, for most of the years, been a little bit quiet before for a month or so. I just thought that was he needed to kick long and just trust the defence, in my opinion. I'd love to get your boys' thoughts.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions. What do we think the logic was there? Or is it just a brain explosion there?
Yeah. A lot of teams I feel like aren't nailing
I think the logic might have been...
Sorry, you go, Kevin.
Yeah, go, Camp.
I was just going to say, I think the logic might have been we do it throughout the whole game. So back ourselves, whether it's minute 75 or minute 1. That's what we do. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. Anything else doesn't make sense. And even if that is the case, that you have that mentality, I would still be saying, let's say I was captain, whatever, I would say, I don't care what we normally do. The game is on the line. We've had a bunch of rough calls against us. Get that ball downfield and chase it as hard as we can and just do our best. I can't understand it.
We've been pretty quiet on it all year, around the short dropouts. Where we're used to it now. It is what it is. That there's no penalties if it goes out in the full or whatever it might be, or if it doesn't go the 10, it's just a tap. But there are a few in this game, late on in that game, where there are some really good repeat sets. One like Doggies were 18-16 down, and Burton put this really beautiful deft kick over the back, got a repeat set, and you're like, all right, game on, they're attacking now. Dragons short dropout, get the ball back. It's like, cool, that was all in vain. Dragons did the same up the field about 2 minutes later, and then Doggies did the same, got the ball back, and won a penalty off it. I'm like, there's just no place in the game for the old repeat set these days. It's a waste of time almost.
Yeah, I hate it, to be honest with you. I hate the way it's just ruined short kicking games. It's,
so
the punishment's too much. And I'll tell you what too, like, and I've said it before, like I watched 2 or 3, about 2.5 Jersey Flegg games on the weekend, and mate, the kids in those grades, they are landing those drop kicks on the 12, 13 metre line and making it a contest every single time. It still blows me away, the amount of NRL halves and whatnot that aren't getting that consistently. And I know it's not an easy thing to do, but like we see, Union players doing it every kickoff and everything. I kind of feel like it's something they're just not working on enough because it is such an important part of the game now.
It should be at least a 50-50 contest. Honestly, the way the Union players do it, and I know the Gilbert balls are different. They're quite round, they float, you can get them up, but they've been doing it for years and years. The drop kick has been far more important in rugby union, but they nail them. You're right, really. Like, it should almost get to a point where you're like a 60-40 chance of getting it back because you get up and just tap it back, where it's a bit harder for the attacking team when the ball's going that way to tap it further back, you know what I mean? But they can smack it back at their own team. Like, if you're the team receiving the ball, their players are scattered across the park. The team kicking it, they're in a line altogether. I'm with you.
Yeah.
It's
Any
one of
thoughts
the
on that one,
worst
Kempy?
rule changes. It is one of the worst rule changes that since I started watching rugby league, one of the worst rule changes. I hate it. I hate that we aren't rewarding the attacking side landing a very hard grubber in behind the line. It makes me furious that we are giving the defending side that is getting dominated an opportunity just to go, yeah, swing it up, see what happens. It looks ugly. It's not entertaining. It's just shit. Like the whole concept, I don't understand it. It's a shit thing.
Yeah.
Thoughts, Ham?
Yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess. It's amazing, though, you're right, Roo, how many teams don't get it right or choose the wrong option, to go for the 50-50 contest versus getting it. The Tigers are terrible at it. It's a very frustrating thing to watch. But, it's something they've got to get a lot better at because, it looks like it's here to stay anyway.
Yeah, and it's not even, for me, it's not even how many teams are getting it right. It's how many teams are missing the ballpark on it. Like, some of them are, like, it blows me away. But anyway, as far as the Dragons go, I thought Moses Sully had a good game, boys. I think he had 9 missed tackles. Back to his damaging self. I'd be, given the Val Holmes injury and whatnot, I'd be really tempted to play him at left centre in this side.
Agreed, yeah. He was far better at left centre, and I actually think it's taken him quite a bit of time to adjust to the right edge of the field. He's starting to find his feet, though, isn't he? And he's got such good hands and that deft tip on for a big bustling centre. He's really got that combo going well with Sloan on the edge, but I'm with you. I think he's a better player on the left edge of the field. I think it just suits him way better. I'd be trying to get him back over there as well with Val gone for the season.
I'll tell you, I know it's been the story of the last few years, but geez, I thought Sloan had a really good 78 minutes.
Yeah.
And just that one moment that you it's just so frustrating that you watch him and you go, fuck, he's putting it together, he's having a good game here, and then just that split second, Kempy, it just, I don't know, like he's not old, but he's not young either. He's 23 years old. Like, he's played, I think it's 75 first grade games he's played now. Maybe it is just flat stick time for a change of environment there. I think that might be the play. What are your thoughts, Kempy?
Yeah, it's a tough one because, he landed on the right person. Like, he did. But it's just one of those situations where you've got to trust your inside. If that is in the 30th minute, you can kind of maybe take that risk of going, I'm going to make the play here. I'm going to make the play. Because that's what he's thinking. He's thinking, I'm going to make the play. I'm going to back. It's almost like, the game's on the line in attack and he puts a grubber through and it goes dead or whatever. It's a bit similar like that in defence. It just didn't work out. He's just got to trust his inside. He's just got to trust that his inside can check that man and keep gliding across. And the other thing that didn't work well for him is that Galvin was drifting across the field. Like, he wasn't necessarily square and he didn't square the line up too. I'm not saying he didn't square the defence up because he did, but he was drifting across the field. Usually when you call a red like that, or whatever you want to call it, it's because they have completely straightened up the defence like Isaiah Katoa. The worry with that is Galvin was already drifting across field, which means the body shape of the players inside you were already moving out with him. And so that was where the error came. And look, maybe I'm being it was the wrong call. He should have stayed out. He should have trusted his man inside, all that kind of stuff. The only thing I could say in his defence is how much wing has he actually played in his whole career? Has he always been the man and the fullback? That's the only thing I can think of because I feel like most full-time wingers in a time like that where you've still got 20 metres behind you, it was about 20 metres, wasn't it? So you've got time to slide. Whereas if you're on your own line and it's the 10-metre mark, that's when you need to make the call. But the funny thing is, if they were on their own line, Galvin wouldn't have had the time to make that. So the position on the field, we had let's just say 15 metres behind him. He had time to slide and give his inside men time, and that's where the error came in. So it was the wrong call. I feel for Dragons fans. He just got it wrong. He went for the big play and it didn't come up.
Oh, yeah, I posted about it on Instagram the other day, but it is crazy, this Dragons season, how it's playing out. They've won 6 games. They've lost 11. 8 of those 11, they've lost by less than 8 points. 5 of those 11, they've lost by less than 4 points.
What could have been?
Oh, mate,
Wow.
what could have been is just crazy. And if you have a look at the entire comp, you've got the Raiders, the Storm, and the Dolphins. They're the only teams to lose just one game, 13 plus. The next is Canterbury with 2. Dragons have got 2 as well. So they're the only 5 teams that have lost less than 2 games, 13 plus. Hot tip, the outlier there is the Dragons in 11th.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Says it all.
Yeah. Do you take positives from that, Kempy? Sort of, I do feel like that's got a little bit to do with the guys they signed this year, and Damien Cook, Clint Gutherson, who have started to turn the mindset there a little bit at the Dragons.
Yeah, it's a tough one. If I put on my analyst hat or even my player hat, it's like, you always, at least when I was at the Broncos, it was like, I didn't give a shit if we lose by 1 or we lose by 1,000,000. We're losing. That's not good enough. So if I'm putting it in that mindset, then they've got to fix it. And we spoke about it early in the year, and it was quite a heated debate about these games. They need to win them. They're going to cost the season, and unfortunately, they have come back to cost them the season. But when I put my fan hat on and I imagine myself thinking of the Broncos, I would be proud because they do hang in every games. And yes, okay, certain years aren't going to go your way, and certain games aren't going to go your way, but compared to some of these other teams that completely capitulate with much better rosters, I look at the Dragons and I say, mate, at least they're showing ticker. At least they're hanging in things. They're blooding a bunch of young players. Their forwards are probably the best. Outside of the Warriors, their forwards are probably the best young forwards in the competition. And so with my fan hat on, and I compare it to how I would feel if it was the Broncos in the same situation they were, I would say, listen, at least they're showing ticker. At least they're hanging in there. So it really just depends how you look at it.
Anything else on that game there, boys?
Nay.
No.
All right, let's move to the late game on Saturday night. The Manly Seagulls, huge upset against the Melbourne Storm. I think this might have been the only game I got points for on Face the Music this week.
Correct.
But I'll be honest with you, I did not see this coming in any way, shape or form. I was just swinging for the rafters there. Timmy, Manly, very good performance.
Swinging a hit for you, mate. It was a good one.
About time.
Manly, hard to get a gauge on. Always have been. But what I will say is this rivalry just continues to deliver. Storm and Manly for years and years. Every single time they get together, you never know what's going to happen, and they put on a show. And I don't know how many. There's a few genuine rivalries still in the NRL, but every time these two teams get together, one of them can be heavy favourites. It just never pans out that way. And again, Melbourne were heavy favourites in this one, and Manly just turned up to play footy. They completed at 90%, and they were the better team. They deserved to win. Obviously, it was sort of a dramatic end of the game with the penalty, but yeah, Manly with a huge win down there against the odds, they've kept their season, their finals hopes alive.
Thoughts, Hammy?
Yeah, didn't see it coming for sure. They kind of, they started so well. The first half was really, really good. It got a little bit tight and nerve-wracking towards the end. But, yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of their players on the field at the moment. That's always been the challenge for them. How do they get him out there? The Turbo at centre thing kind of working. He had a pretty good game, I thought, on the weekend as well. But, look, they've kept their finals hopes alive with one, apart from yourself, Roo, not a lot of us saw coming.
Geez, I thought Luke Brooks had a good game. Just pulled the right reins on a number of occasions, and obviously he was a part of the big moment at the back end. And just on that moment, I hate optically that's how games are decided in rugby league, but it's been a rule for a long time. We're well aware of it.
I absolutely hate it for our game, Roo, but the correct call was made. I threw out in the SC Playbook subscriber WhatsApp chat blowing up about just saying how I can't believe our game has come to this, and it was met with very mixed thoughts and very polarising between people. Let me be clear, the right decision was made. It is a penalty, and it has been for a number of years. But a lot of people were comparing it to Lachlan Ilias's broken leg. They are not the same incident in any way, and they should not be adjudicated on the same way, because the one in New South Wales Cup where Lachlan Ilias breaks his leg, that was a bloke going in with 10, not to hurt, but to make impact and hit the body and hit the kicker. Harry Grant, he was looking the other way. The kicker was looking the other way. there was just nothing in it in my eyes. As I said, it is a penalty. It should have gone to Manly. They should have won the game. I just think that is so soft for our game.
What are your thoughts, Kempy?
Oh, I just want to bring that fair dinkum department back out. Listen, I'm with you, Timmy. I'm with you, Roo. It's a penalty every day of the week. It's been a penalty. That's what they've made. So I agree. It absolutely was the right call from the referees. But like always in rugby league, we always overcorrect, and we have overcorrected with this stuff. And this is the same as a little bit similar to that try that was scored against the Roosters. Let's just have a bit of fair dinkum. Like, come on, guys. Like, that is not a worry. That is not a thing negatively affecting rugby league right now. We do not have to worry about blokes grazing legs because there's so many injuries. I just think that we've overcorrected. And look, it comes from a good place. I understand why the NRL have done it. It really does come from a good place. But I think we need to bring the fair dinkum department back out and just go, come on, guys, what are we doing here? It doesn't make sense. However, as I said, I want to make it clear, just like Timmy, it was the right call by the refs. And if I wanted to be super critical, Harry Grant has done it before. And so he needs to find a way to stop doing that. I mean, he got against the Sharkies, he's got sent for 10 for the softest penalty in the history of rugby league, but that has been that's been the standard. So, unfortunately, Harry Grant is just switching off in those moments. Understandably so, the bloke's bloody working his absolute backside off, but he's just got to find, until the NRL do something about it, unfortunately, you just can't touch the leg.
And I'll tell you what, Roo, we can cop it in round 20, so be it, but there's every chance this decides a grand final and a premiership, and shit will hit the fan if it does. It is so hard for a defender to put any pressure on a player going for a field goal now. It is quite bloody hard to try and charge the ball down without any risk of touching them and giving away that penalty, an easy 2-point game over. It's almost like you're giving him a free shot at it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's a definite problem. Yeah. I mean, this is part of my issue with the whole golden point and everything, mate. There's just too many things that factor into this stuff that, if you take a shot at field goal and there's any chance now that you've got the challenge as well, all you need, as Kempy said, is just a graze. It's game over. I hate it. It's rank.
It's crazy. It's they're not, I feel like it's a rule made by a person that's never charged a ball down, because it's okay, so hang on a sec. You want me to get high enough in front of him where I'm sprinting out of the line because I've got to be onside for one. Then I've got to go to block the ball, and I've got to be fortunate that his angle isn't so that I've either got to stop on the spot, because you literally, matter of fact, sometimes you'd even have to take a step back because he might move forward into the drop goal. And so we've just got to have some common sense with this stuff. Basically what they're saying now is, if you touch any of their leg, it's a penalty, which is crazy. Come on, man. That putting pressure on kicker has been part of rugby league since its inception. I'm not saying that we need to go back to the days where Jonathan Thurston's getting absolutely poleaxed every time he kicks the ball. But at the same time, when a guy, doesn't leave his feet, when a guy goes to charge the ball down and he just runs his same line through softly, no intent, it shouldn't be a penalty. It really shouldn't.
And just the context of the whole situation, where a player is going for a field goal, whether it's in the final 2 minutes of game and scores a level, or whether it's in golden point, when said kicker is flicked, it's a penalty from 10, 20, 30, 40 metres out dead in front that, apologies Tanner Boyd, but will be kicked every single time, game over. It is such a big call.
Yeah, I thought even...
And I'll just say... Sorry, boys, I got to bounce quickly, sorry. I will say, though, Manly were the better side. Manly were absolutely the better side and deserved to win. So I'm not taking anything away from Manly's win. I thought they were outstanding. And I know Storm fans have been off me for quite a while now, and I'm not going to sit here and say I told you so, because I didn't see this coming. I picked Melbourne. But this is what happens when you don't complete at a higher percentage and you are trying to score points on every single play. It came back to bite them in the arse, unfortunately. I know they've won 6 in a row, so it's been easy to brush it aside and say, Denon, you're just being a hater. I'm not being a hater. I really am not. I want Storm to kill it. I really do. But they need to sort out they need to get that ruthlessness back that they had against the Sharkies.
Have you got to go, mate, or...?
In about 5 minutes.
Okay. On the Manly Seagulls, honestly, one of my favourite moments of the weekend, Ruben Garrick, his effort. It didn't lead. Well, I mean, it did lead to something. They scored the kick out wide. They didn't convert it. But his effort to chase back on Jerome Hughes, force him to slow down, pass back, then force Grant Anderson to throw, pass over the top, then still be there to just be in the frame, let alone be touching Xavier Coates on that play. It just sums up why we love Ruben Garrick so much.
You said, Roo, a moment of the weekend, like one of the moments of the year. It's just, that is Ruben Garrick to a T. And then kept him out wide because he kept chasing. Kick was missed, correct?
Yep.
And then they end up winning the game from that penalty. And, that effort essentially won them the game of footy. And from Ruben Garrick, who just typifies these effort areas that we speak about so often. And the whole game, mate, he was just class. The amount of kicks he diffused that a lot of others would have dropped, some of his defensive plays all around that, his finishing ability, he was superb for them.
Yeah, it's a classic origin play. I know he hasn't been there. I hope he gets there eventually someday. I think being on the wing is his best opportunity too. But yeah, that was a sensational play. I also thought Takiaho through the middle was fantastic for the Seagulls. He's been a really good signing coming back.
Well, they won the middle, Manly. And as sort of Kempy said, sure it was won in controversial circumstances, they deserve to win. And, where there's been a few question marks around Manly's middles, there has been about Melbourne's too, and that they were better in this fixture. And, yeah, SST, Takiaho, he was great.
On top of that, Manly won the middle. They also had to play Jazz at hooker the entire time because obviously Jake Simpkin had to come from the field. I think he's got Nass's elbow in his forehead still. But having to play Jazz at 9, who, I've said before, I think he's a handy guy to have there for 20 minutes so that Simpkin is fresh. He's not a guy I want playing 75 minutes of 9 or whatever ended up doing. Down a forward, they're already down forwards as it is. They're already lacking a forward pack. A very good knock down there.
Very good knock. And as I said,
incredible.
Yeah, sorry, you go, Campy.
I was going to say, mate, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And Ruben Garrick's play, that is why you never allow that bloke to sign with another club, because you build clubs around guys like Ruben Garrick. In a day and age where we've got blokes that are 6'4", 100 kilos on the edge, I'm picking Ruben Garrick, 9 times out of 10, unless you're an Origin player, because he is who you build clubs around. That effort that he made, he might have ran at full pace 200 metres. I'm telling you right now, on a rugby league field, maybe once in your life you run full pace for 200 metres. He does it all the time. I think it was one of the bravest plays. What I love so much about that play is no one's, we're talking about it obviously, but most of the wider audience, they're not going to talk about it. They're not even going to think about it because they scored in the corner. So it's okay, it doesn't matter. It matters. It won them the game. That kind of mentality is what won them the game. It's the first win the Manly have had down in Storm territory since 2019, I think. It's incredible. And Jakey Trbojevic, I thought he had his best game in years. I thought he was outstanding.
Me and Sarah have been talking the last few weeks, and I think Jake Trbojevic personifies it perfectly, that I think there's guys in the game nowadays who enjoy the game, but they love the lifestyle. Gerbo just loves the game. And for him to walk into the change rooms after, kick the living shit out of a heap of bottles and celebrate almost like a 5-year-old, just pure ecstatic. He's played 80 minutes there. I just love seeing that.
Wasn't that a moment? And then you see all the boys around him who are already sitting down, just piss themselves laughing, that's our man, that's our leader.
That's our skipper.
That is what this fixture and winning this game of football and playing finals footy means to Jake Trbojevic.
He had a bit of a bee in his bonnet, didn't he? Went with Trent Liero there, told him to get back on the mark and play the ball properly. So, fired up Jakey probably brought out the best of him, down there in Melbourne. So, his stats weren't huge, but his impact was enormous.
Let's move to the Melbourne Storm. Timmy, what did you take out of this game for them?
Yeah, big nasty. Nelson Sofa-Solomona. I look at the middles of the Melbourne Storm, and that is, I think, their weak area. And I don't mean their entire pack, because I think their edges are unbelievable. Their middles, I just have a question mark against the best middles in the competition. And if Sofa-Solomona can get back anywhere near to his best, he can create that momentum that we spoke quite in depth about last week, Roo, around when the Storm do get rolling through the middle. They're near unstoppable, what they did against the Knights, because Harry Grant plays off it, Jerome Hughes gets off it. Nas can almost single-handedly create that momentum, but, mate, there are so many brain explosions in Sofa-Solomona, and we've seen them time and time again this year. Also the old crackdown on the correct play of the balls and getting your foot to the ball, it gets to round 20 and you go, let's bring that one back this weekend, because why not? But that one doesn't suit old Nas. But just his discipline, Harry Grant scored what could have been the difference, a match winner in this one, and they went back and you're like, what could they possibly be pulling this up for? Like, Harry, there's been nothing impeded. Harry's done it all himself. And he's elbowed whoever it was coming out of the tackle, penalty, Simpkin. And that was, that was the game in the end.
Yeah, and on that, Nas, early guilty plea, 2 matches. If he's found guilty, challenges 3 matches. I can't imagine a world where he does that, so I think he'll be out for 2 weeks. Thoughts on the Melbourne Storm, Kempy?
Yeah, I just wanted to back those points up. There's a reason why, whenever we talk about the best front rowers in the game, we never bring up Nelson or Solomona. However, I guess natural ability-wise, you could make the argument that he could be literally number 1. But unfortunately, just, it's interesting because Jared Warrior-Hargreaves, I feel like he is similar in the sense that he had many brain explosions, but I feel like because he played usually more minutes and, let's say most of the time that aggression helped the team. The worry I have with Nelson is that he just has these runs where, he might play 4 or 5 games and like 4 out of the 5 games, he has a big moment that kind of costs him quite dramatically, especially when, we've spoken about it so many times, but they are desperate for that. And we thought that the guy from the Titans, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name now.
Pahulu.
I'm actually really keen to see it. Yeah, Pahulu. I'm really keen to see how he goes. But, can they win a premiership without Nelson at his best? Maybe. Nelson at his best will put them in a position to be likely to win a premiership. So it really, I wouldn't say it hinges on them. I feel like they've really shown that they can win some big matches without Nelson. But my God, I tell you what, if I'm playing the Melbourne Storm and Nelson's at his best, that's a whole different kettle of fish to Nelson when he's having his errors and stuff. So the problem is that the Melbourne Storm's game plan is built around momentum, and Nelson is the best at it. So he's just got to find a way to just pull it all in, because as we saw on the weekend, when the Storm lose the middle, they don't score all those points. And that's why the Raiders are sitting there going, we'd be pretty confident around the Storm come finals time if they can't get that momentum sorted.
Nas had that moment in an 18-minute stint in that game.
Inexcusable.
Yeah, wild. Hammy, Melbourne Storm, mate?
Yeah, a little bit obviously below their best, a little bit of a blip on the radar. One positive, obviously, Xavier Coates, obviously got the 3 tries, but got through a bunch of work as well. He's come out of the origin period pretty good. But, yeah, Nas, there's been a few times through the last couple of years where we've gone, why isn't he in the team? What's going on? Why are they kind of holding him back in reserve grade or whatever? And I think it's just these kind of brain explosions or these moments that, can be quite costly. Bellyache hates those. It'd be interesting to see even when he's back and available, what do they do there? Does he come straight back in? Not sure. He might have been the missing ingredient in last year's grand final, but at the same time, maybe there would have been a few more moments like this, and you get the sense Bellyache's patience might be running a bit thin. But look, I don't think it completely derails their season. They're still the favourites to win the comp, but probably expect them to do a little bit better than they did on the weekend.
Big 2 weeks coming up for the Melbourne Storm. They're in 3rd place on the moment. So they've dropped out of the top 2. The Bulldogs are 1 win ahead of them. The Raiders are 2 wins ahead of them, and they've got a bye coming. The Storm play the Roosters this Thursday night. Now, Belly said in the press conference that Cameron Munster will almost definitely not be playing this weekend. I believe his father's funeral's this week, so he won't feature. Ryan Pappenhausen, sounds like he's not going to be back anytime soon.
Nah, he's a chance.
He's a chance, is he?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. You got Nelson out. They play the Roosters this week. Now, the Raiders play the Knights, the Bulldogs play Manly, the Warriors play the Titans. I'm going to back all of those top 4 teams to win. The Melbourne Storm could very quickly find themselves a little bit out of touch with that top 2 finish in a home final. And if they lose next week and the Broncos win over the Eels, the Broncos will be 1 win behind them going to the top 4. So it's a big few weeks coming up for the Melbourne Storm.
Said it's currently looking like, I think they'll be fine for the top 4, but you said the home final, Roo, and it's, as it stands, we know things can change very quickly, but it's sort of them and the Doggies going toe-to-toe for that one, unless the Warriors can make a bit of a run. But, yeah, we'll see how things pan out. But the Doggies' run home is pretty good. It could be a Doggies... It's every chance to be Doggies Melbourne, week 1 of finals. Is that going to be in Sydney or Melbourne? Because it's a huge swing.
And the other thing as well, with Brisbane, that spot behind them, chasing them, I think they play Brisbane twice in the next 6 or 7 weeks. So if Brisbane can win those games, mate, the needle could move very, very quickly on the Melbourne Storm. Anything more on that one, Kempy?
Just quickly before I go. Just quickly before I go. Listen, I know Storm fans think I'm their number 1 hater, but I believe when they get all their players back, I reckon they're going to go on a run. I know it sounds crazy after the performance they've had, but I don't know. For some reason, I feel like when it clicks, it's going to click in a big way. And I think that this could be the making of their season. A loss at home like that in an important match, it could be. So I've got faith that they'll turn around. I've got faith. But I guess we'll see. What they do is they definitely need to sort it out. That's for sure. But boys, sorry, I've got to go. But thank you so much. I appreciate it. And you guys obviously can finish off the show.
All right, the West Tigers, 21 points to 20 over the Gold Coast Titans at the 8th wonder of the world. And our resident Tiger, you were there, mate. How was it?
I was there. Never in doubt. Nice, easy watch, which we love about these Tigers games. That was the 9th Tigers game this season that's been settled by 6 points or less. I think conservatively, I reckon I've shaved about 5 years off my life this year just through the high blood pressure and what have you. But, hey, wasn't pretty, but got it done. I know Benji wasn't overly wrapped with it. In fact, I think in the press conference he said it might have been our worst performance of the season. So, look, we should have made it a little bit easier, but, you know, we got the job done there. The fans loved it there on the hill. It was absolutely packed and rocking in there. Adam Dewey, once again, the clutch kind of player. He's probably been the one bloke that's really stood out, especially he's had a few moments at Leichhardt, but across the last month of football, he's easily been our best player. When the moment came, he was the bloke that took control. Is that a little bit concerning? Obviously, we've got a couple of guys in the halves there. You probably want those guys calling the shots and setting up a little bit better when the game's on the line. But, look, got it done. Probably opens up a little bit of a gap, locks down a spot in the top 16, as I mentioned earlier, which is good. But, yeah, maybe a little bit lucky, I've got to say, even as a very passionate Tigers fan, to get it done. Bit of
remember the Titans about your Tigers. Bertier and Campbell, left side, strong side. Look fantastic out there.
Yes, absolutely. Taylor May on debut.
Strong side.
For not a big movie guy, that's pretty good from you, mate.
Yeah.
Or is it just music?
It's just music.
It was just confusing because they're actually playing the Titans.
That's
it took me a few minutes to just realise where you're going. But
it's not as good when you fucking explain it, as we all know.
No. But no,
proceed. Left side was good.
You've got a salient point, Root, because
Dad's been gone for 2.5 minutes and we've already lost the plot.
No, Taylor May I thought was excellent. Obviously, he killed it in reserve grade coming in. Basically demanded to be picked, and he continued that form, scored the first try, and the other ones, he had a hand in him, probably through the last pass to Skelton on both occasions. So a really strong start from him, which we love. And I also like the fact that it's moved Dewey to 13. I think that's kind of his spot. Like, we've been all year we've been going, what is his best position? He's made it work in the centres. He's slipped in the halves when we've needed him to. But yeah, I think it's actually answered a few questions for us. So very strong start from Taylor May. If he can keep that going, that's going to be great for us. But the left side was humming, as you said.
I agree with you. I love Dewey's move into the 13 jersey. I thought it worked really well. Both May boys were tremendous. We spoke about it last week. Timmy Terrell May, for the first time this season, had a spell in the first half. I sort of thought, okay, does this mean maybe he'll get less minutes? Nope. Played the full 80, went the distance, was tremendous. What did you make of the Tigers?
Yeah, it was the best shit game I've ever seen. Quality was not great, but far out the finish to it. And like I'll throw back to you, Hammy, shortly, but just watching on a beautiful winter's day at the 8th, the crowd there, the way they got up when Dewey hit the match winner, it looked special out there.
That was unbelievable. I got covered in beer straight after, like just beer cans and stuff going everywhere. It was humming there. Every game at Leichhardt should be 2 p.m. Sunday. End of discussion. Maybe one 4 p.m. so you can get it, the free-to-air one as well. But
just don't overthink. Just give them that slot. No, it's so good out there at that time.
It was magic. It was really good. And you can definitely feel at that ground a home ground advantage. You don't get, I know we've got 5 home grounds, and it's not easy to kind of build that kind of vibe. But when an opposition team goes there, they're copying it from the hill, which is packed. Those 50-50 calls sometimes end up going our way. It's got a real feel about it. I hope we can play there more. I know they're going to be doing it up in the next few years, but it was special there yesterday. It was awesome. And our record in the last couple of games, I think we won 6 of our last 8 at that ground. We can't say that about many grounds that we play at.
You mentioned there the best shit game you've seen. Jeez, there was just a couple of moments in this game that I thought, geez, that is so Titans and that's so Tigers. Like, Appy comes on the field, he starts off the bench, they play the ball and Appy's looking somewhere else, and the Titans dive on the ball from dummy half and take that.
It's like watching Rugby League 26. no one at dummy half. I saw a few of those over the weekend. We did it about 3 times. I thought, come on, guys, reboot.
Yeah,
Anyway.
and then the Titans late in the game didn't pack the scrum in time, 14 all, penalty in front.
Was there a more Titans moment than that where they don't pack the scrum in time and give away a penalty from 10 out in front?
Yeah.
It was like good teams in the competition, Roo, like you need to get in an arm wrestle with and in a grind with and just stick in it for as long as you can and wait for the opposition to blink. With these two sides, I know it sounds harsh, but you just don't need to get in an arm wrestle with them and hope that they blink, because the amount of piggybacks they give through silly penalties and easy turnovers, like you just know they're coming.
Yeah. Yeah, they're both in a bit of a weird spot at the moment. Does this put you into the top 16? Like, does this rule you out of wooden spoon contention?
Well, I wouldn't say ruled out, but a lot of things that have to go right for the Titans. They'd probably have to win a lot of games you wouldn't expect them to. They've got the Rabbitohs and they've got us on their run home. I think, even if they play us in round 27, barring a lot of things going their way, I think we've opened up enough of a gap between them. We've got a bye on the way home.
You've got a bye, which puts you 6 clear of them.
Yeah. I'd like to. Yeah, well, I caught it last week, didn't I? I was confident.
I was going to say you were more confident last week.
Yeah, we're home. Top 16. It's done.
What'd you make of Appy coming off the bench? You a fan?
Well, it was interesting. We didn't see it coming. Shockwaves went up and down the hill when it was announced. We kind of checked the squad on the way in, and Tristan Hope started. Look, I see the methods of the madness. Tristan Hope, while the sting's in the game a little bit. The key thing about Appy coming on after the first 20 minutes is it means he doesn't need a break at any other point. And then when the whips are cracking and maybe Benji thought, look, this could be a tight one, we just need him out there as long as we can. The riskier run is like if it gets away from you early, it can be tough to pull it back as well. But I could see where he was coming from because he has needed a break for most games this season. So, yeah, initially I was a little bit sceptical, but it worked out in the end. And I think we're probably going to see a little bit more of it through the rest of the year.
Huge game this week against Penrith. Nathan Cleary, Isaiah Yeo back into the side.
Yep, fresh. That will be a test for sure. But we might have Jerome Buller back as well. So, there'll be a bit of a rejig at the back there as well. It'll be a good test. I mean, we pushed Penrith last time we played against them, and, that's when they were starting to get back into their work as well at full strength. They only knocked us off by 6 points then. I know Jerome will be keen to get a win over his old club. So it's going to be a test. Penrith, they've had the luxury of getting guys right over the last few weeks, so I'm not getting too carried away. But, I feel like it'll be a real test for us.
Did Jerome Buller make it out to this game?
Jerome Buller?
Yeah.
Oh, come on, mate. Something about that chair today. It's just, you're really playing a role.
Just a media beat up for you, Jerome Buller, out there at the Canterbury game?
Look, it's concerning. But I've been worried about Jerome Buller since he changed his manager at the start of this season. So not much we can do to control that, really. Didn't look great. Did send a little bit of a shock through the system. But, hey, what do you do?
What do you do?
I tell you what, Taylor May, in his first game back in the NRL, he scored a hat-trick, I think it was last week in Cup, in his second game, first full game back.
In 12 minutes.
Yeah, in 12 minutes against the Warriors, who are putting together one of the greatest Cup seasons of all time. Look, he's had a troubled few years, but rugby league loves second chances, and I hope that Taylor May takes it with both hands, because there was never any doubt as to his ability as an NRL player, and for him to cut, he was the difference in this game, single-handedly. He was outstanding for you. And there was another moment I love just around the leadership of Jerome Luai, who, look, he hasn't had his best year, obviously, but at the end of the game, he was interviewed and asked about Taylor May, and the quote and the way he phrased his reply, he goes, I'm going to get him back to his best, not we or whatever. Jerome takes on himself. It was so natural. I'm going to get him back on track and make sure that he makes a fist of this opportunity. It's so Jerome Luai, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it was actually Matty on Beers and Break Evens with us last week, Matty. Great point. I think that Taylor May returning has just got the best out of Terrell as well. He just went to another level. Yes, I think he had 5 offloads in that game. He had a try assist where the amount of times he got the ball and those two just connected through the ruck and whatnot.
Mate, how's the one on the short side where Terrell went blind and hit him? Oh, God.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on the Tigers, boys?
No.
It's just going to be interesting to see what happens with these kind of halves, and it still looks a little bit chaotic for me.
Yes.
But, that's the one watch. We got out of jail there, but someone's going to need to take control and steer things.
They were so disjointed, the halves and the whole spine. They were just on a different field, it seemed like, and so you got away with it. We sort of touched on it a little bit last week, but for the last 6 games, whenever the Tigers have to play, I'd be leaning into Jerome 7 and just saying, mate, this is your team, steer the ship. What have you got? Because I just think there's, you boys, you and Kempy often speak about, like with the Sharks, like who's running the show, who's the 7, etc. I see a lot of that in the Tigers at the moment. Lean into Jerome for the last 6 games, see how it looks, and if it doesn't work out, going into next year, you go, all right, we give the keys to Latu and he's our 7, but I think it's worth trying. As you said, you hopefully dodge the spoon this year, Hammy. You're not going to play finals footy. Let's see what he can do as the dominant number 7.
All right, the Gold Coast Titans. Boys, in a weekend where there was a lot of unbelievable individual moments, I thought that Jaden Campbell try assist to De Groot, there was the first one, which I know you'll get upset about. We'll get to that in a second. I thought the kick was unbelievable. To sum it up, in a split second like that, he's got 7 on his back. He's not a halfback. He's just making a fist of it. Like, De Groot scored that untouched. He couldn't have summed up that moment better in a split second, which just shows the freakish ability this kid has.
Oh, I'd give anything to see him just string a season together without any injuries, because the amount of soft tissue injuries and little things he's had every single year that plays him, he's such a talent. And like, we had question marks around him moving into the halves. And look, in a perfect world, I still think fullback is Jaden Campbell's spot. But as we know, the Titans have a few of those, so they don't need him there. He's just so gifted.
I thought the pass for the first try was an absolute peach. How do you feel about peaches?
I completely disagree. It was, I mean, if you do like your NFL and stuff, so I can probably see where you're coming from there. I think he threw it into a different postcode, didn't he? Went about, conservatively, would we say 6 metres forward? But anyway, them's the breaks. The touchy was in the perfect spot as well, which really grinded my gears and the gears of several of us standing up on the hill. But just a sign of
the hill wasn't happy about it?
Everyone.
Yeah,
wow. Just a sign of
Who would have thunk it?
It's just a sign of a great side that you can set that aside, get out of jail, and still get the win, even with those sort of calls against you.
Forward pass or not?
Probably not as much as Hammy's carrying on over there, but I thought there was a case for out of the hands backwards and floated. Look, I think it was probably forward, but I don't think there was much in it at all. What do you reckon,
Matty?
It was forward.
Yeah, thanks.
I thought it was okay. I thought it was
yeah.
I thought it was a cracker. The Titans as a whole, though, we spoke about it already. Like the scrum, the penalty out of the scrum in a key moment like that, 14 all. Dave Fafita at the moment, mate, like played 18 minutes in this game. He just looks completely disinterested to me.
He looked interested in doing a bit of sledging with the boys. There's a few moments there where they were getting into him. Don't think he liked that very much, but apart from that,
were you dishing him out a bit, mate?
The hill was pretty vocal, but there was a bit of push and shove. I think it was around the scrum, the attention to detail of or the lack thereof around that moment. Don't know what's going on there. Don't know how you solve it.
What are they going to do with him? Like, how is this going to play out?
Well, it'll probably depend on Desi Hasler. Is the issue between Hasler and Fafita or whatever it is? There's always noise around Dave Fafita, isn't there? So I don't know if Desi Hasler moves on. Does that keep Dave Fafita happy? Is there more to it than just him and Desi? I don't know. But, I mean, it looks like Des is probably gone. But if Des was to stay, I don't see how Fafita stays.
Yeah, it's a big decision for the next coach coming in, who I assume there will be a new coach to come in, what he does there. Because, yeah, I mean, for the amount of money they're paying him, they're just not getting their worth out of that deal at the moment. Dave Fafita's winning that deal by a distance.
I will say, I'm still critical of the decision to play De Groot over Khan Pereira, but it's pretty good. Jalen De Groot in this one on the wing, and it's at a smaller body. I'm just not sure that I can see it working longer term. And look, I know they've got injuries and sort of plugging holes, but scored 2 good tries. Positioning for both of them great. Defensively, he was okay. I know that Taylor May had a bit of a field day on the left, but a lot of it was through the centre. I thought De Groot went quite well.
Yeah, I agree. He had a good game. Anything else to touch on?
Just Tino,
from that game?
a bit of an injury. Only had the one stint. Do we know what the go is there?
After the game, I think he said he feels like it's all right, believes it's just a knock and will be fine.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you wonder at what point do they just start giving Tino a rest? Like, let's not run this bloke into the ground. He's coming off an ACL injury as it is this year, and he's played huge minutes, but it sounds like it may not be too bad. We'll obviously go for scans today.
Yeah. He was back on the bike during the game and whatnot, so good signs there. Last game of the week, the Wars, 20 points to 15 over the Newcastle Knights. We spoke about it, our KO moment of the week. Lecker, an enormous play towards the back end there. Crazy how this game did finish up. What did you take from this one, Timmy?
Well, it's one of them ones, right, where the Knights were probably the better side. It's a funny thing, the NRL, and like the way it is at the moment, but the Knights without their three best players, you could say, in certainly Ponga and Lucas, then you'd nearly throw Fletcher Sharp in there in terms of form this year as well. I thought they were probably the better team for this game. And the Warriors, who were a long way from their best, one of their lesser games this season, but good teams find a way to win, and they've made it very hard for themselves, the Warriors, but that win, I won't say locks in a top 4 spot and the double chance, but they've got a good little gap to the Broncos in 5th now and a soft run home, so huge in the contest, because if they lost this game and dropped a game they needed to be winning, that fight for the 4 becomes very close. There's pressure. They probably locked them in a double chance, I think.
Yeah, I think given their draw home and the teams they play, I think it has sort of locked them in there. What'd you make of Tanner Boyd, his second game in the 7 jersey?
He's going well. He's such a good goal kicker. That penalty, that is the beauty of sport, right? Pressure.
Yep.
No matter how good a goal kicker he is, and he was 4 from 4 in this game up until that penalty shot, and you just thought, Tanner Boyd, there's not many people you'd want kicking ahead of him. Was about 30 out in front and missed it. The relief on that man's face when Lecker scored, that's one of the great get-out-of-jails.
Yeah, without a doubt. I thought, we've spoken about Lecker and how good he is. I thought that Vimalga, when he came off the bench as well, scored a really nice try there. Another one that's very hard to handle. Aaron Clark just does it every single week, Aaron Clark.
Yeah. So he's chopping and changing, Webby, between Halasima and the odd time Laban and Valmunga as the starting edge. It looks like maybe it's Lecker now, but Lecker played 67 minutes in this game. I know you've got to get all these blokes minutes somewhere, but surely you just lean into Lecker as a 65-plus minute minimum. He's just that good, right?
I mean, you would assume so, yeah, but, once Kurt Capewell, he played centre in this game as well, so once I assume a Leia Tower or someone will come back next week, Kurt Capewell will be back in the back row somewhere.
Jeez.
I would just be locking Lecker in there personally, but... Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the chopping and changing isn't quite done for.
What a luxury.
Unbelievable. It's just, we already spoke about it with Mobsy earlier in the show. If you're a Warriors fan, I highly advise you go listen to that segment at the start with Code Sports talking about, your grassroots and all the stuff going on there with the Warriors. But they're just building a fantastic platform at the moment. It's going to be crazy to watch over the next few weeks. I think Chance is due back next week or the week after, I believe. So that'll be a huge in for the Warriors too. Anything on the wires, Hammy?
No, just excited about that new catchment that they've got there in southeast Queensland. They could unearth the next Tanner Boyd or Aaron Clark there. So stiff pickies if you're a Titans fan.
For the Newcastle Knights, I sort of alluded to this earlier. The other one that I found a little bit hard to get around, and I think very similar to the double movement calls in the game. To me, it's just evolved over the last 10 or 15 years. The pass off the ground for me, I feel like there's just no rules around it anymore. It's union. You can do whatever the fuck you want. I can't believe, I think it was Marcia. He was on the ground, players had hands on him, and he was able just to flick the ball. That's a pass off the ground for me every day of the week.
Mate, Dane Gagai's response to it, his facial reaction said it all. He was like,
Shifty
oh,
eyes.
God. That wasn't a try.
Yeah, where do you sit on it?
Yeah, I thought they're very lucky to let him get away with it. To your point, Dane Gagai was like, did we really just get away with that? It's we spoke about it earlier with talking about double movements and stuff as well. It feels like it's just a bit grey at the moment, Elbow on the ground, that should be the end of the play, isn't it?
I think the argument was that the ball never hit the ground, which I'm also not 100% sure if it didn't. But I just... Matty, where do you sit on that one? The Greg Marshew offload blatantly on the ground.
Yeah, no.
No try?
Nah.
Yeah, I can't get around it. But I feel like it's just been creeping into the game for the last 2 or 3 years that there's a lot of guys on the ground in the play the ball and stuff that are just letting the ball go and they're letting it slide.
I just find it like sometimes they'll be black and white and then sometimes they'll show discretion. But then the ones you show discretion is the ones where I think it should have been black and white.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
It's a bit weird.
Just on the Newcastle Knights too, like apparently at their captain's run, they had 5 blokes show up for that. They showed up to that game yesterday without any idea who was actually going to play and who wasn't. So for them to be even in the ballpark of this game, I think that's an incredible effort by them, considering the players that they're missing via injury as well. You mentioned, if you were to go to their awards night, I think whoever gets up and gets an award is probably going to be on crutches, realistically. Yeah. They're all gone. A really good effort by the Knights, guys playing out of position, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, just heartbreaking at the end there.
Credit when due, mate. Like, it's been a tough year for the Knights, and it's hard to be positive about them, but they were really good in this contest without key players. They're having a crack.
Yep.
The execution has not been there for 2 years now, realistically, certainly in attack, but the defence has been great all season. They probably should have won this game. 0 from 3 conversions as well, so that ended up being the difference in the game, but the effort is there. They're just not putting it together.
The other one that I really like, I mentioned him last week, ended up starting on the edge, Jermaine McEwen. I think with Kai Pearce-Paul leaving next year, I think he'll start on that edge. I think he's going to be a big, big watch over the next few years. He looks like a good player.
Does look like a goer. Greg Leg was damaging as well. There was the controversial try assist, but he was great.
Yeah. Anything else on that game? Matty, Hammy, anything you want to throw in there?
I think all good.
Newcastle, yeah. Just heartbreaking at the end there for the Newcastle Knights. All right, we've got Face the Music. Yep. I'll hand over to you, Hamiso.
Thank you, Roo. Face the Music brought to you by Sportsbet. Make sure you give Kempy a follow on the feed. Make sure you give me a follow on the feed as well. We've got round 21 coming up. We've got a full round of games as well. We kick off on Thursday night at Allianz Stadium. The Sydney Roosters are $2.67. They host the Melbourne Storm $1.47. The line in this one is 6.5 points. Must win for the Chooks if they are to scrape into the 8.
Give me the Roosters 1-12 in this one.
360.
Yeah. I'm going to go Roosters 1-12 too.
You okay?
I'll go Roosters with the 6.5 start, please.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take the Roosters with the start as well. We'll take Kempy's on notice, of course. Then on Friday, 6 p.m, North Queensland host the Dragons. North Queensland $1.56. The Dragons $2.44. 4.5 is the line in this game. I don't know, might be a bit of value around the Dragons here.
Yeah, I'm going to go the Dragons 1-12 in this game.
Yeah, I feel a bit crook saying it after last week's performance from the Cowboys because they're a schmozzle, but I just think in Townsville, I'm going to go the Cows to cover.
Cows to cover?
I'm just going to go Cowboys head-to-head.
Cowboys head-to-head, $1.56. Dragons 1-12. For the record was $3.70. I think I'm just going to take the Dragons head-to-head, $2.44. Cowboys defence, worst defence in the comp. I think they're a bit susceptible up there. Brisbane Broncos, $1.24, host the Parramatta Eels, $4.10. This is the 8 p.m. Friday game. 13.5 points is the line up at Suncorp.
Yeah, up there at Suncorp. I just think Brisbane will be too good coming off a bye. I'll go Brisbane 13 plus.
Is Moses back?
He is reportedly back, I believe. He's due back. So I'm still going to go Brisbane. I think they'll be too good.
Yep.
Yeah, big factor.
$1.85.
I will go the Broncos to cover.
Yep. Broncos 13 plus.
Yep. I think I'm going to take the Eels with the 13.5 start. I think they can keep it close with Mitch Moses coming back in. Then on to Saturday, New Zealand Warriors, $1.30, host the Gold Coast Titans, $3.52. The line in that one is 9.5 points.
There's going to be a dead cat bounce at some point with the Titans the back end of this season. They're going to win one game. There's going to be a lot of value in. I don't think this will be it. I'm going to take the Wars to win this one, 13 plus.
Yeah,
$2.12.
That 9.5 line, that's unders. I'm going the Warriors 13 plus.
I'll take the 9.5 start. Warriors.
Yep, I'm going to go that Warriors minus 9.5 as well. Penrith Panthers, $1.29. Host the West Tigers, or host is in inverted commas because it's at CommBank, which is a home ground for both sides. $3.63. 11.5 points is the line in this one.
I think the Tigers are going to be up and about for this one, but I'm going to take the Panthers 1-12. I think it'll be a little bit tighter.
$3.15.
I do not. Panthers 13 plus.
$1.99.
I'm with Roo. Panthers 1-12.
Yeah, $3.15. I'm going to take the Tigers plus 11.5. Yeah, they've obviously kept a lot of games. There's been a lot of games, as I said, settled by 6 points or less this year. I don't think they'll give up, and I think Luai will be keen to have a big game against his old club. South Sydney, $4.45, host the Sharks, $1.21. 12.5 points is the line. This one's on Saturday, 7:35.
I'm going to take the... Who'd you lose this week?
Keon and Mamazelos.
Yeah, fuck.
I don't know if Mamazelos is out this week, but he went off with the HA. I can't remember if it was Cat 1.
Yeah, okay. I will take the Sharkies 13 plus.
Sharks to cover.
Yep.
Sharks to cover.
Yeah, I think I'll take Sharks to cover as well. The 12.5. Raiders, $1.19. This is sort of Kempy's ballpark. Host the Knights, $4.70. The line in this one, 14.5 points down at Canberra Stadium on Sunday.
Knights plus 14.5.
Yeah, I've got a bit of value. I'll go Raiders 1 to 12.
3.30.
I will just go Raiders 13 plus.
$1.75. I'm going to Raiders 13 plus as well, $1.75. And then to bring us home, the Dogs, $1.62 host Manly, $2.30. The line's 3.5 points.
That'd be a good game.
This will be a cracker of a game. I'm going to take the Seagulls 1 to 12.
3.30.
I will go the Bulldogs to cover.
Dogs head to head.
I'm going Dogs 1 to 12 at $2.90. I think it'll be a close one as well.
Now, I believe that game as well, that's at the SFS, isn't it? That's at Allianz. I think it's the, what would it be, the 30-year?
30-year reunion of the grand final.
Yeah, shout out to Jim Dimmick, Clive Churchill medalist that day. One of my faves.
That'll be a cracking day out.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be good. All right, that's it. We'll keep an eye on that over the weekend. That's Face the Music brought to you by Sportsbet. Give Kempy a follow on the feed and give me a follow on the feed.
We're going to go fuck ourselves.
See ya.
Imagine what you could be buying instead. For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.